للكافر ولقد فريق منهم جاءهم رسول
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I would request the distinguished team of IOFS to kindly request the participants that are outside to invite them to come into the room so we can start. I think after 5 minutes we can start so we can ensure that whoever is having a coffee, networking, can come and join us. Colleagues, please let's try to bring participants who are outside. Distinguished participants, kindly those that are behind, if you can come forward, because we have lots of seats, that will be much better, inshallah. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, we are all gathered here, of course, to start the sub-forum that will focus mostly on what we at Islamic Organization of Food Security understand will be the relevance and the work the different civil society organizations are doing in different member states. We count with one panel, high panel, then 3 panel discussions with different moderators, and we will understand from there what we as IOFS intend to do afterwards. And I will be very happy as your Master of Ceremony to return at the end and responsible for this civil society sub-forum to discuss the main outcomes, because as you may be aware, where the ministerial meeting of food security was going in parallel in a different room, and because I have some other responsibilities, I'll be very happy to transfer my responsibility at the moment to my dear colleague, Emre Yüksek. Mr. Emre is a fresh joinee to our institution. He's from the distinguished member state of Turkey. He's a very nice colleague and experienced and smart, and works as a humanitarian affairs manager, and he will be taking my position in my absence. So, Emre Bey, buyurun.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear participants. My name is Emre Yüksek, and serving as Humanitarian Operations Manager at the Islamic Organization for Food Security. As my colleague, dear brother Menafi mentioned, it's with great pleasure and a sense of accomplishment that I stand before you as the Master of Ceremony to inaugurate the sub-forum titled Engaging Civil Society Against Food Insecurity. This momentous event, organized by the Islamic Organization for Food Security in collaboration with the Ministry of Municipality of State of Qatar, marks a significant milestone in our collective journey towards addressing global food security challenges, particularly within the OIC member states. In our sub-forum, we will focus empowering civil initiatives for cultivating change and the pivotal role that civil society organizations play in promoting social inclusion, empowering marginalized groups, and advocating for the needs and aspirations of local communities. Guided by the motto, "From Fields to Futures," empowering communities for food security, we are striving to create a platform where the diverse expertise, local knowledge, and connections of CSOs can flourish. Today's events have been meticulously designed with a set of specific objectives in mind, all aimed at fostering more active engagement of CSOs in the development of national and regional agricultural policies. This engagement is pivotal in making significant contributions to the enhancement of food security in our region. Moreover, this sub-forum has been a catalyst for exchange of knowledge and innovative ideas within the realm of sustainable agriculture and food security among civil society organizations. It has provided an open arena where CSOs could come together for peer-to-peer dialogues, delving into various aspects of food security and nutrition policies, trends, and challenges. Today's sub-forum comprises 3 major sessions, each addressing critical aspects of our food security journey. In the first session, Transforming Gender Relations in Agriculture Through Women's Empowerment, we will shed light on the gender disparities in accessing essential agri-food resources and emphasize the need for gender transformative changes in agri-food policy. The second session, titled Urbanization, Rural Transformation and Implications for Food Security, will explore the impact of urbanization on agri-food systems and strategies, effectively engaging civil society stakeholders in policymaking. Lastly, the third session, Empowering Youth for a Sustainable Future, will delve into the challenges faced by rural youth and strategies to involve them actively in agriculture and food security initiatives. As we embark on this journey together, I invite you all to actively participate, engage in thoughtful discussions, and explore innovative solutions. Let us work hand in hand to ensure that no one goes to bed hungry, and together we can truly make a difference in the world of food security. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure and honor that I introduce His Excellency Ambassador Isiaka Abdul Qadir Imam as we kick off the sub-forum, Engaging Civil Society Against Food Insecurity. So before inviting him to the floor, I want to give his short biography. Ambassador Imam assumed the esteemed position of Secretary General of the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation on January 1st, 2022, marking a significant chapter in his distinguished career. He stands as the fifth Secretary General of this esteemed organization, bringing with him a wealth of expertise and dedication. Ambassador Imam's educational background is anchored in bachelor's degree in political science, which he earned from the American University in Cairo. His journey into the world of diplomacy and international relations commenced after his graduation. Throughout his distinguished diplomatic career within the Foreign Service of Nigeria, Ambassador Imam has exhibited exceptional commitment and professionalism. Ambassador Imam Isiaka Abdul Qadir Imam brings a wealth of knowledge, experience, and dedication to the cause of international cooperation and diplomacy. We are truly privileged to have him as our guest today and look forward to his insights and guidance in our discussions on combating food insecurity through the engagement of civil society. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Ambassador Isiaka Abdul Qadir Imam to hear his opening address on the role of civil society organizations in agriculture development and food security. Excellency, floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. MC, for that kind introduction. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, dear participants, and ladies and gentlemen. To begin with, I thank the Islamic Organization for Food Security, IOFS, for inviting me to deliver an opening address at this crucial sub-forum. I also congratulate the IOFS for organizing this critical high-level forum, which cannot come at a more appropriate time, given the dire challenge in food security and sufficiency. I also want to thank the government of the state of Qatar for the warm welcome and excellent arrangement that has been made for this event. Distinguished participants, my presence here today is a good beginning to kickstart the implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding, which was signed between the IOFS and my organization in the month of March this year in Nouakchott, in Mauritania. That MOU was signed on the margin of the 47th or 49th session of the Council of Foreign Ministers meeting of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation. It was signed precisely on the 17th of March this year. But before I proceed further, Excellencies, permit me to introduce the Developing Aid Organization for Economic Cooperation, or the D8, as it's usually called, which I'm serving as its Secretary General. The organization was established in 1997 by the head of state and governments from 8 developing countries, namely Bangladesh, Egypt, Indonesia, Islamic Republic of Iran, Malaysia, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and the government of the Republic of Turkey. The D8 was established to promote trade, industry, and SME, transportation, energy, tourism, health and social protection, education and human resource development, information and communication technology, and most importantly, agriculture and food security. These 8 countries are prominent economies in the global south, and collectively, they command a population of about 1.1 billion people. So it's a very, very strategic organization which is drawing attention of important countries to its membership. Excellencies, distinguished participants, agriculture and food security have been among the D8 priority areas since the organization was founded more than 25 years ago. At the governmental level, the D8 has organized 7 ministerial meetings on agriculture and food security. The last one was the 7th ministerial meeting, which was hosted virtually by Bangladesh in January 2022. Among its outcome was the agreement to promote and scale up climate-smart agriculture, which I think is an interest to the IOFS. The D8's endeavor also culminated in the inauguration of the D8 Research Center for Agriculture and Food Security, which was recently launched in Faisalabad in Pakistan in the month of March this year. The center is being hosted by the University of Agriculture in Faisalabad, and it is aimed at promoting D8 agricultural innovations and technologies. The center allows scholars, practitioners, academicians, and experts to pool their know-how and ideas to advance agriculture technologically. The center will also welcome cooperation from external entities, and we look forward to working with the IOFS with this research center in Faisalabad to grow agriculture and food security. Distinguished participants, let me now come to today's topic. Today's discourse on the role of civil society organization in agricultural development and food security is very, very germane indeed. It comes at the most appropriate time when the global community is grappling with a severe food crisis. Moreover, agriculture and food production from the umpteenth time have always been important to all societies and nations as they are crucial to ensuring adequate feeding with the right nutrients. The D8 believes that all hands must be on deck to ensure agricultural production for food sufficiency. Government and non-governmental organizations, including CSOs, must engage in effective collaboration and sustainable agricultural production. On this premise, the role of the civil society organizations cannot be overemphasized. If we want to face challenges against the agricultural sector head-on, the civil society organization must be enlisted to join our hands. As such, we at the DH, we encourage cooperation with the CSOs in a broader term and various areas such as investment, in joint research, technology transfer, in the area of trade, education, and sharing of better experiences on modern techniques of farming that improve agricultural production. The D8 views on the role of the CSO is also aligned, it aligns with the notion of the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, otherwise known as FAO. The FAO states that CSOs can play a critical role in the fight against hunger and ensure food security. FAO identified that CSOs can play a significant role in various activities, from technical work, emergency field operation, training and capacity building, and advocacy. The FAO's CSO's engagement strategy can serve as a model in supporting the development of our agriculture and food security. Distinguished participants, we must deepen our engagement with CSOs in order to increase food security for our teeming population. Like I mentioned in my earlier statement, in the D8, we have over 1.1 billion mouths to feed. So it is imperative for us to partner with CSOs in order to grow our agricultural potential. The reasons are as follows. The reason why we must partner with the CSO are as follows, as we identified in the D8. One, CSO can promote broader public support and political will due to their proximity to the stakeholders. Secondly, CSO are experienced in promoting participatory approaches in development program. Third, CSO can also serve as gatekeepers to ensure two-way communication between the policymakers and the general public. This, in turn, will ensure effective policy implementation. The D8 also believes that we must promote closer public partnership in agricultural cooperation. For example, during the 5th D8 ministerial meeting on agriculture, which was held in 2014, it focused on the public-private partnership in fertilizer production and supply chain. The envisaged partnership ranges from investment to capacity building for small farmers to produce organic fertilizers. Therefore, we must emphasize public-private partnership to implement joint projects, feasibility studies, and capacity building in various agricultural subsectors. On the same note, the newly inaugurated D8 Center for Agriculture and Food Security, which I introduced earlier in my speech, will also be the perfect avenue to tap into the capacity and resource of civil society organizations to support our endeavor to advance our agricultural technology. While the center is relatively young, I can assure you that it has vast potential to support our agricultural joint efforts. Therefore, I invite you to utilize the DA Research Center for Agriculture and Food Security and to collaborate through it. In conclusion, Excellencies, distinguished participants, I want to reiterate two things. First, civil society organizations are crucial in agricultural development and food security. Second, public-private partnership is also very, very vital to our endeavor and to support the coherence between policy and practice. Both strategies are essential for achieving goal number 2 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, which says zero hunger. I'm happy that we have dedicated this sub-forum to discussing this crucial topic. Please use this opportunity to engage in a lively and fruitful discussion on how best to harness collaboration with civil society organizations. I look forward to learning from the recommendation of this subcommittee and this notable sub-forum. On that note, I wish you all a fruitful discussion. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed with our discussion, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to His Excellency Ambassador Isiaq Abdulkadir Imam for his insightful opening remarks and for gracing us with his presence today. We appreciate the valuable perspective he has provided. Ladies and gentlemen, we are truly honored to be in this generous and hospitable country of Qatar, a nation that extends its passionate dedication and generous help to people in need across the globe. Qatar has consistently exemplified the values of compassion, solidarity, humanitarianism, that transcending borders to make a meaningful difference in the lives of countless individuals and communities worldwide. We are also privileged to introduce esteemed humanitarian organization from Qatar, that is Qatar Charity. It's a beacon of compassion and expertise, making a significant impact worldwide. Their dedication to the alleviating suffering and providing hope is truly commendable. Now, it's my distinct honor to introduce our next speaker for the opening remarks, Mr. Ahmed Saad Al-Rumaihi, the Director of External Affairs at Qatar Charity. Before inviting him to the stage, I want to give his biography. Mr. Al-Rumaihi has played a pivotal role in Qatar Charity's mission to make a positive impact on a global scale. His journey with Qatar Charity began in 2019 as a fresh graduate from international relations from the University of Birmingham. His unique perspective in international relations and understanding of partnership dynamics within the humanitarian system have been instrumental in shaping the organization's strategies. Mr. Rumaihi's journey within Qatar Charity has been nothing short of impressive. He started as a director of relief, where he implemented emergency response mechanisms, ensuring faster, more effective, and inclusive interventions. Since December 2022, Mr. Al-Rumaihi took his role as the Director of External Affairs, where he currently oversees the development of implementation of a global international cooperation and advocacy strategy. We are eager to hear his insights and perspectives on engaging civil society against food security. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ahmed Saad Al-Rumaihi to share his opening remarks. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. It will be a bit difficult to follow from the wonderful remarks from His Excellency the Ambassador, but I'll try my best, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, at the outset, allow me by extending our deepest gratitude to the IOFS for providing a platform to discuss such a vital topic. It is a pleasure to stand before you today. Agriculture is a proven engine for poverty reduction. GDP growth generated by agriculture is more effective in reducing poverty than growth in any other sector. In some contexts, growth in agriculture reduces poverty by up to 11 times faster than growth in any other sector. As an INGO delivering humanitarian aid and development assistance across more than 70 countries, Qatar Charity has long recognized that investing in agriculture development and food security is paramount to responding effectively when crisis hits and to address deep-rooted and development challenges. It can provide long-term and sustainable solutions that can better sustain livelihoods, reduce poverty, and directly address the root cause of acute hunger and malnutrition. With that in mind, Qatar Charity has been actively investing in agricultural programs and initiatives that enhance agricultural practices, food production, and support small-scale farmers in many countries. In northwest Syria, for instance, Qatar Charity, funded by OCHA, was able to support the infrastructure of the wheat value chain to advance local wheat production and to enhance food security through facilitating a self-sustainable system by which Syrian farmers are leading the process. The long-term goal of the program is to build resilience and ensure sustainable agricultural practices that can withstand future challenges. In the planning, design, and implementation of these programs and initiatives, collaboration and active engagement of civil society organization is paramount to the success, sustainability, and continuity of these interventions. To conclude, the role of civil society organizations is to operate in the front line, bridge the gap between farmers, policymakers, and local communities, and provide a better understanding and ability to address the specific challenges faced by local communities while working hand in hand with partner CSOs. This will result in aligned efforts, optimized impact, and making the most of available resources, which in hand will lead to contributing an enhanced emergency response during crises and long-term agricultural development and food security. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed Saad Al-Rumaihi, for sharing your insightful opening remarks. Now, we will proceed with our first panel discussion, focusing on the crucial topic of the role of CSOs for women's empowerment in agriculture. Our moderator for this enlightening discussion is my colleague, Ms. Mataba Ajab, IOFS Operation Analyst. I am now delighted to invite her, Ms. Mataba Ajab, to take the floor and guide us through this important conversation. Ms. Mataba, the floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I am now introducing you the opening of the role of the civil society organization in empowering women. I am inviting to the panel Ms. Zahra Zumrud Suljuk, Her Excellency. She is the Director General of the Statistical, Economical, and Social Research and Training Center. She holds, I will start again. She holds a BA degree in Economic from Ihsan Balkans University and a Master's of Science in Accounting and Information Management from the University of Texas, Dallas. Mrs. Siljuk has held positions as a researcher, senior researcher, and a director of Statistics and Information Department at CISREC. In CISREC, she has led projects related to sustainable development goals, poverty measurements, Islamic finance, women empowerment, education, and more. She has also authored and co-authored statistical and research publications of CISREC. Mrs. Siljuk was appointed the first Minister of Family, Labor, and Social Services in the 66th government of Turkey in July 2018. During her term, she introduced significant and comprehensive programs and projects to improve social protection in the country and strengthen social dialogue with trade unions and confederations. Her Excellency, please join me. It's an absolute pleasure. I am excited to hear your points and your perspective on CISREC and your also presentation, inshallah. Pardon? It's up to you. Okay. I will introduce the rest and then we can. Her Excellency, Dr. Afnan Shaibi. She is an experienced executive with over 20 years of experience. She is the executive director of the Women Development Organization and the founder and CEO of FNN International. Dr. Shaibi has held high-profile positions in Saudi Arabia, the Arab world, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Dr. Shaibi has a PhD in Leadership Administration from George Washington University, a master's degree in Educational Administration from the American University, Washington, D.C., a bachelor degree in English Literature from King Saud University, Saudi Arabia. Additionally, a certificate in executive education from the Harvard Kennedy School and a certificate in peace and conflict resolution from the American University, Washington, D.C. She also holds a private pilot license, PPL, from the United States. Additionally, she is the member of the Board of Trustees of King Abdulaziz Center for National Dialogue, a member of the Advisory Commission at Khalid's University, and a non-executive independent member of the PwC Advisory Council. Your Excellency, I'm eager to understand WDO through your lens as the Executive Director. Having a field experience is crucial to gaining a better understanding of what's happening on the ground. Our next speaker, Mrs. Rabab Sassi, is a business consultant with a background in marketing in different fields: agri-food, mainly olive oil, export, ready-to-wear brands, and cosmetics. She will showcase her experience as a member of the Tunisian Olive Oil Women Network, which is dedicated to promoting the role of women in the olive oil industry in Tunisia. I am sure that her presentation will be both informative and insightful. Please join us to the floor. Your Excellency. Yes, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to speak at this important forum. At the outset, I would like to commend the Islamic Organization for Food Security for their remarkable efforts for organizing this important event to explore the role of civil society organizations in achieving food security and agricultural development in OIC member countries. Paying special importance to women's empowerment in agriculture is particularly commendable. So I also would like to express my sincere thanks to the government of the state of Qatar to gathering together us on this lovely city of Doha. Agriculture development and food security are extremely important for the welfare and progress of our member countries. However, despite making noticeable progress over the years, many of our member countries continue to face challenges in agriculture development and improving food security due to low productivity, weak infrastructure, limited access to technology, and the adverse impacts of climate change. Today, I will be presenting you some general statistics and information on the economic participation of women in agricultural sector. Then I will highlight the importance of women in agricultural activities as well as its broader impacts. Finally, I will touch briefly on the role of civil society organizations on empowering the women. As we go from the slides, globally, the share of the agricultural employment is steadily falling to reach 27% in 2021. This is third slide. Okay. Okay. Globally, the share of agricultural employment is steadily falling to reach 27% in 2021. The share of employment in agriculture is higher in OIC member countries. However, similar trend is also observed. The declining trend is also observed in OIC countries, whereas agricultural sector accounted for 32% of total employment in 2021 as compared to nearly 39% one decade ago. So, on the other hand, when we look at to the economic participation of women, economic participation of women is significantly lower in OIC countries than the rest of the world. In 2022, only 38% of women in OIC countries actively participated in labor markets as compared to 47% in the global average. Even though the share of women employment in OIC countries is relatively lower, when we look at the agriculture sector specifically, we say that they primarily work in agricultural sector. As of 2021, 37% of employed women were working in agriculture, though this, we can see from the graphic that this share is also falling over time, yet it is still higher as compared to the world average, demonstrating the significant importance of agriculture activities of women in OIC countries. Look, when we look at some of our member countries, employment of women primarily take place in agriculture, and we have countries like Mozambique, Burkina Faso, like this rate reaches above 70%. So like these countries, most of the top 10 OIC countries, the share of agriculture in total women employment is more than 50%. It's a very, very high number compared to the global perspective. However, when we look at the share of women in total agricultural employment, women don't necessarily account for the bulk of total employment in the agriculture. Women accounts 39% of total agricultural employment, and this share is getting close to the world average. When we look to the share of women in total agricultural employment, we can see that at the individual country level, women accounts more than 50% of total employment in agriculture, including Gambia, Mozambique, and Azerbaijan. And in some other countries, women can be seen as less absent. And when we look at the share of OIC in women employment, we can see that we have been witnessing a rise until 2019 to reach nearly 25%, but a declining pattern is being now observed over the last 2 years, and as of 2021, women workers in agriculture in OIC countries account nearly 25% all women working in agriculture. It is the same as global numbers. This is much higher than the aggregate share of IOFS countries in women labor force in the world, which was 17% in 2021. So when we look at these numbers, we can see that even though women play an important role in agricultural activities, their engagement is classified as vulnerable employment. Vulnerable employment is defined as the sum of employment status groups of own account groups and contributing family workers. This means that as of 2021, this share is up to 90% in OIC member countries. Our OIC labor market report showed that 50% of workers in OIC countries are in the status of vulnerable employment. Evidently, women employed in agricultural sector is particularly vulnerable, meaning that they have limited access to social protection mechanisms that we should exert more efforts on it. So when we look at the role of women in agriculture, while challenges are abundant, empowering women can provide some critical solutions in achieving food security as well. First of all, women make up a substantial portion of the agricultural labor force, and their active involvement can lead to greater agricultural productivity. Women also play a pivotal role in crop cultivation, livestock management, and food processing, which collectively contribute to a stable and more abundant food supply. And also, women active involvement in agriculture has also profound implications for food poverty reduction. And because in many OIC countries, agriculture remains a primary source of livelihood. When women are empowered to work, to participate more in agricultural activities, they can generate more income, build assets, and also improve their families' living standards. So this, in turn, can help break the cycle of the intergenerational poverty. Furthermore, women participation in agriculture contributes to rural development. As women earn income from their agricultural efforts, they invest in their families, not only in their families, but also to their communities. This investment can take various forms, including improving access to education and healthcare, better housing, and enhanced local infrastructure. And these developments collectively contribute to the overall well-being of rural areas. So additionally, women's engagement in agriculture has environmental implications. So active participation of women can contribute to agriculture practices that are both more productive, economic-wise, and also more environmentally responsible. So we should recognize that economic participation of women in agriculture is a key driver for food security, poverty reduction, rural development, and also more sustainable agriculture. So we can say that women's role in agriculture is essential for building more resilient and more prosperous communities in OIC member countries. So when we look at the role of civil society organizations in empowering women in agriculture, we can see that they can facilitate access to the resources for women farmers. This includes helping women to access credit and financial services. And by bridging these resource gaps, the civil societies can empower women to engage more in agricultural activities. Furthermore, civil society can be helpful in facilitating market access for women farmers. They are also capable of engaging in policy dialogue to influence policies and regulations to promote women's role in agricultural activities. So lastly, the civil societies are needed to foster women leadership and social empowerment regarding the agriculture communities. Distinguished participants, first of all, I want to underline that the civil societies can definitely play a pivotal role by addressing resource gaps, providing training and capacity building, facilitating market access, advocating for policy changes, and conducting research. And as a subsidiary organ of OIC, VSESRIC is developing and implementing activities and programs on various socio-economic issues with a view to support the developmental efforts of OIC member countries. And we are hosting more than 200 indicators under our OIC stat database. Before concluding, I would like to hereby reiterate our willingness and readiness as CESRIC to strengthen cooperation among our member countries in their efforts to achieve sustainable agricultural production and food security in our member countries. I wish you all success and thank you for your kind attention. Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullahi ve Berekatuhu.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for these incredible remarks. Our following speaker will be Dr. Afnan Shaibi. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'd like to start by acknowledging and thanking the Islamic Food Security Organization. I'd also like to thank the State of Qatar for its welcoming, hospitality, and organizing with the Islamic Food Security Organization this special event. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly honored to stand before you today on behalf of the Women Development Organization, WDO. In progress and advancement, we firmly believe that women serve as a cornerstone upon which all communities flourish. Moreover, within the contents of Islam, we hold women in the highest regard, recognizing their invaluable contributions in every aspect of life. It is through the empowerment and recognition of women that we lay the groundwork for nurturing stable families, which in turn paves the way for resilience, prosperous, and enlightened societies. At WDO, our vision extends far beyond the recognition of women's worth and their pivotal roles within families. We're committed to promoting gender equality and women's empowerment across a broad spectrum of objectives. WDO is dedicated to advocating for policies and reforms that address gender disparities and promote women's rights. Through strategic partnerships and collaborative efforts, we work towards dismantling systemic barriers and ensuring that women's voices are heard and valued in decision-making processes. One of the main important areas that we focus on is women's economic empowerment. This is a paramount for importance for several reasons. It's a matter of human rights and gender equality. Women account for approximately half of the global population, and their economic empowerment ensures that they have equal opportunities to participate in and benefit from economic activities. By empowering women, we break the barriers and the discriminatory practices that have historically limited their access and resources and opportunities and decision-making powers. When we talk about the challenges faced by Muslim women in our societies, it is essential to acknowledge the diverse societies and the realities that they encounter. Muslim women face social, cultural, and economic barriers that often hinder their full participation in agricultural sectors and food security initiatives. These challenges include limited access to education and resources, gender-based discrimination, and unequal opportunities. It is crucial for us to create an enabling environment that supports the empowerment of Muslim women in agriculture. This requires breaking down social stereotypes, providing access to education and vocational training, and ensuring equal opportunities for their active participation in decision-making processes. As a result, WDO is giving a very high focus on the file for empowering women, specifically in the field of agriculture. Rural women shape the future of this planet in terms of providing the necessary needs and empowering women in building a sustained future for us and the future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, in a powerful partnership with the Islamic Organization for Food Security and the Permanent Interstate Committee for Drought Control in the Sahel, CILL-SS, we embarked on a field activity for capacity building in Niger on the file of food security and agriculture. The focus of this was to address the pressing issues of women and climate change, recognizing their vulnerability and the critical role they play in sustainable development. From the 16th to the 17th of May, we organized a transformable capacity building workshop for farmers on water management in agriculture in Niamey, Republic of Niger. The training initiative brought together 70 farmers, including 34 inspiring women from Tahua region. The project shows the commitment to empowering women, harnessing their potential, and equipping them with the knowledge and skills needed to navigate the complex landscape of climate change. By promoting inclusive and gender-responsive approaches to water management and agriculture, we strive to create sustainable livelihoods, enhance food security, and foster resilient communities. As we move forward, the Women Development Organization remains steadfast in its commitment to advancing gender equality, combating climate change, and empowering women across all spheres of life. In this realm of agriculture and food security, it's crucial for sustainable development that women play a vital role in agricultural production, food processing, and preservation. However, they often face significant challenges, including limited access to resources and technologies, unequal land rights, and lack of financial support. To empower them in our societies, we need to invest in their capacity building, provide access to credit and resources, and ensure their active participation in decision-making processes. Resilience and adaptation to shocks, such as climate change and economic crisis, are essential aspects of empowering women by equipping women for the necessary skills, knowledge, and support system. WDO does not just focus on women economic empowerment, but rather we are working to break the stereotypes linked to Muslim women from its roots through raising awareness. Today, we recently launched its webinar series, Islam versus Cultural Practices, which highlights how a lot of misleading stereotypes are linked to Islam in a wrongful way in the field of women empowerment generally. This series highlights the importance of having Muslim women scientists, as well as the vital role for Muslim women in public life. And finally, the last episode will highlight women's financial independence in Islam. While we recognize the challenges faced by Muslim women, it is equally important to celebrate their success stories. There are countless examples of women who have defined social expectations and made significant contributions. These women serve as role models and source of inspiration for others. Their success stories highlight the transformative power of education, access to resources, and supportive environments. Sharing these stories can motivate others, break down barriers, and promote a more inclusive and equitable agricultural sector. Your Excellencies, in conclusion, bridging the gap between Muslim women values and international gender equality in the contents of women's economic empowerment requires a comprehensive and collaborative approach. It calls for a dialogue, education, and the creation of enabling environments that empower women to overcome challenges and contribute to sustainable development. Let us work together to ensure that the voices and experiences of Muslim women are heard, valued, and integrated into our efforts towards achieving food security for all. By doing so, we will not only honor the principles of Islam, but also foster a more inclusive and future for all of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for highlighting this. It was very informative. We are now inviting Ms. Rabab Sassi to the floor.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank IOFS for inviting me in this great event on behalf of Tunisian Olive Oil Women's Network. It's really an honor for me to take part of this great event. And also, I would like to thank our sponsor, CHO Group, the producer and exporter of olive oil in Tunisia. So let's start now. Okay, how does it work? Okay. Let me speak about the context of Tunisia. We are a major exporter of olive oil alongside Spain and Italy. So olive oil as a strategic product It's one of the main activities in agriculture, and it contributes to the achievement of national goals of economic growth, food security, job creation, increased export earnings, and preservation and enhancement of natural resources. By the way, Tunisian olive oil is divided into more than 160 varieties, and it offers a range of different flavors of olive oil. Here I can make an example of Chitwi, which is the intense variety, and Shimlali, which is the soft and sweet variety. I'll not bother you with all the statistics, but this is only to show that with the yellow color, Tunisia is alongside with Spain and Italy in export of olive oil. Even for this, the production of olive oil is due to climate change. It's always fluctuating, even for export also. Okay, speaking about Tunisia is also speaking about the iconic olive trees. Here we have, for example, in the north of Tunisia, we've got the Ishraf tree, which is 2,500 years old, and it's the oldest tree in Africa. And we've got also the Akarit tree, which is based in south of Tunisia in the Sahara, 900 years old, and it produces over 1,500 liters of oil per year. Okay, still when we speak about Tunisia, we still think about culture and heritage of olive oil. It's still anchored even in our Tunisian coins, the olive tree and olive branches. And as Tunisia is a crossroads of culture, since Berbers and then Carthaginians and Romans, and then Arab people, and then French, the culture of olive is still anchored in our, let's say, in our culture. Now I will introduce my association, Tunisian Olive Oil Women's Network. We are a group of olive oil lovers from different profiles. In fact, we are from university researchers, exporters, professional tasters, and farmers. And here, I would like to thank our president, Sausan Mrad, who engaged me here in order to have to be a speaker with you. Our DNA is inspired from SDG, so I can list our mission right now. So we give support to provide an olive oil that meets the standards of the ICOI, the International Olive Council. We also integrate more women in the industry of olive oil. We try to encourage producers to bottle olive oil also. And we are promoting Tunisian olive oil worldwide. That's why I'm here. And we try to reach out Tunisian consumers to promote olive oil culture, even with painting. And finally, we try to protect environment. Okay, I will list some missions by the next slides. So here we have, on social media, we have made online session with international experts in order to talk about the benefits of olive oil, and then to highlight that Tunisia is one of the best producers of olive oil, just alongside, as I said, so the biggest countries in the world. We have also launched the first international olive oil competition in Tunisia, where we have contributed with tasters from, as you can see, from Tunisia, from Jordan, France, USA, Brazil, Turkey, USA also, and Spain. And here we have highlighted and emphasized on best women producer categories, not only best olive oil. This was the first edition last year. Some pictures of last year edition. And here's a picture of the award for Best Women Producer. She's Tunisian. Here's a photo of a group for Dido International First Edition. We tried also to promote Dido One on national TV in Tunisia in order to continue on the same path, for this year. Here's our press releases for the last edition. Okay, for brands that are awarded in Dido International, we have tried to promote them in different international fairs. For example, here in Korea, and here in Belgium fair, and here in International Agriculture that was held in Tunis. This was last year. This year, 2023, we have also held Dido second edition, and here we can find that we have 9 women above 11 women above tasters, and also we have emphasized on best women producer category. Here's some pictures of the recent edition. Okay, and also we have partnership with international associations such as Pandolea in Italy, and here we have took the initiative to make workshop for kids and to make them taste the olive oil and understand all the benefits with olive oil. We have also participated in Riyadh event in Tunis in order to highlight the women leadership in the sector of olive oil. We have also done symposium, which is called Do We Know Our Olive Oil? Because it was in French. So it was in the University of Inat. We have, as we succeeded with the kids, we have also tried to raise awareness among kids and moms and their moms here with the kids suffering from cancer, in order to explain more the benefits of olive oil and how to get healed from. Recently, we have participated in Expo Liva in Spain, as Tunisia was the guest of honor of this fair. And here, on behalf of Tunisian Olive Oil Women's Network, I was in charge of mentoring an online training session for transformative leadership with the big ONG Kautar. And in order also to encourage people, we have also shared so many times and invite them to produce artwork regarding olive oil and healthy food. I would like also to thank all the organisms that have trusted in us till now, hopefully for the next years also, with and even with CHO group who always trusted in us. Okay. But besides that, we are facing so many challenges. Here, I would like to say that we are still not gaining in the field. I mean, we are trying to empower women organizations locally and globally. We are trying to empower relationships with private sector and government. We are trying to attract more women in Dido International competition and create a yearly plan for the network. We hope to expand the network in all over Tunisia also, because we are based in Tunis and in some cities. We are engaging women in rural area in training session for quality and for sustainable agriculture. We are enhancing mom to opt for healthy meals based on olive oil also, as our grandmothers have done before. We are trying to attract donors and funders to achieve new goals with us. And we are trying to implement olive oil tourism by training, creating routes, and job creation. So please, let's start projects together. And before finishing, I would like to share with you some videos, quick videos of what we are doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khadat, for this groundwork and for highlighting the Tunisian experience and the whole Tunisian olive oil women network projects and initiatives. It's really important to highlight what's happening on the ground to truly empower women and the importance of the whole chain from the management to the ground. I would like right now to summarize our speakers' points, and hopefully so we can focus more on giving highlights to what have been said. Your Excellency, your presentation was very insightful. You have shared a good insight on the OIC member countries and the women role on the member countries and how they're doing when it comes to women figures. The share of women in total agriculture employment in OIC countries is 39%, close to the world average of 37.7%. 90% of women employment in agriculture is considered as vulnerable employment. Of this, 8.1 are employees, 1% are employers, and 42% are own account workers. In some OIC countries, a significant proportion of women are employed in agriculture. For example, in Mozambique, 79.8% of women work in agriculture, followed by Burkina Faso, Niger, Uganda, and Pakistan. In some OIC countries, women account for more than 50% of total agriculture employment. For example, in Gambia, 62.3% of employed individuals are women. This indicates a significant participation of women in the agriculture sector. You've also highlighted the importance of women's empowerment by facilitating access to resources for women farmers, to provide training and capacity building opportunities. They also facilitating market access for women farmers, to engage in policy dialogue and raise awareness about the importance of women economic participation, and foster women leadership in social empowerment. Thank you for your input. This was very important. Your Excellency, you have highlighted the importance and how to empower women in the realm of agriculture and food security. You have also told us about Islam versus the cultural practices, about WTO, your interventions when it came to women economic empowerment, ending violence against women, the role of women in fighting corruption, and women in promoting inclusive societies. Women play a critical role in agriculture in developing countries, yet their contribution often goes unrecognized. Moreover, they lack equal access to skills, resources, and opportunities to make the most of their farming activities. They also do not have much to say in decision-making on climate adaptation and mitigation in agriculture, although they stand to be affected by it the most. Globally, 36% of working women are employed in agri-food system. 30% of are men, while 70% of agriculture policy documents from 68 countries recognize women's role and the challenges they face in agriculture development. Only 19% had gender equality in agriculture or women's rights as explicit policy objective. A mere 13% encourage rural women participation in the policy cycle. And these data have been provided by the FAO. Establishing common ground definitions when we talk about women empowerment, the economic benefits, the pathway to gender equality, the activism and policy, the women business development and marketing, the production to market, the experience on the ground. This is an inclusive from the bottom up to down on how to empower women. By this, we conclude our session. I thank you for your participation, and I thank our distinguished participants for their input. Thank you very much.
We have been truly enlightened by the discussion on transforming gender relations in agriculture through women's empowerment. So my sincere thanks goes to our distinguished panelists for their invaluable insights, and we extend our gratitude to Ms. Mataba for skillfully moderating this session. Now, without further ado, let's shift our focus to the next engaging session on urbanization, rural transformation, and implications for food security. As we transition, allow me introduce myself as the moderator of this next session. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to welcome you to this important session on urbanization, rural transformation, and implications for food security. Now, we will embark on a journey to explore the intricate relationship between urbanization and agri-food systems, a relationship that plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of our societies. In this session, we will delve deep into the dynamics of urbanization and its profound impact on rural areas and food production. We will emphasize the crucial roles played by various stakeholders, from civil society organizations to governments and market actors. It's through their combined efforts that we can hope to address the challenges and seize the opportunities presented by the ongoing transformation of our landscapes. As we gather here, we are acutely aware of the complexities involved in balancing the needs of growing urban populations with the imperatives of food security. We will explore the critical dimensions of this challenge from the spatial and functional aspects of rural and urban markets to their direct effects on income, employment, in economic inequality and policy making. The decisions we make today will have far-reaching consequences for the future well-being of our communities and our planet. Our discussions will also revolve around the megatrends in consumption patterns and production within the agri-food sector. Understanding these trends, it is essential to understand the concepts and the priorities to design sustainable solutions that can meet the food needs of our urbanizing world while safeguarding the environment. Moreover, we will highlight the role of civil society organizations can play in shaping the impact of urbanization on rural areas and food production. Their advocacy, innovation, and community engagement are invaluable assets in our pursuit of a more equitable and food-secure future. Today, we are privileged to have a diverse array of speakers, which I will invite you now to the podium. And also, we will utilize the advantages of technology. We will receive recorded messages, and if possible, we will receive an online participation from Uganda. Without further ado, I would like to invite the esteemed panelists for these sessions that I will give their bios later on. So I am privileged to invite first His Excellency Professor Ibrahim Adam Ahmed Al-Dukhairi, Director General of the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. Your Excellency, I kindly request you to take your seats. Then further, we have Ambassador Dr. Abdul Salam Al-Medani, Executive Chairman of DIHAD and DISAB, Goodwill Ambassador, Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. Excellency, kindly take your seats. And finally, I am delighted to invite my colleague, Dr. Shahlo Atabeyewa, IOFS Program Manager, and she will tell her experience on the food balance. And later, we will be joined by our Dr. Suat Atan, who will share his recorded message. So, and I also, with your due respect, take my role as moderator. So we are honored to begin with our first panelist, His Excellency Professor Ibrahim Adam Ahmed Al-Dukhairi, Director General of Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. His vast experience and leadership will undoubtedly provide valuable insights into the challenges of opportunities faced in the Arab region. But before inviting him to deliver his remarks, I would like to give a short biography. His Excellency Al-Dukhairi is a distinguished academic and agricultural economist with a wealth of experience and expertise. He holds a doctorate in agricultural economics from the Technical University of Munich, which he earned in 1997. Professor Al-Dukhairi has held numerous significant positions throughout his career. He also served as the Minister of Agriculture and Federal Force of Sudan from 2012 to 2016. And since May 2015, he has been serving as the Director General of the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development based in Khartoum, Sudan. Professor Al-Dukhairi has contributed significantly to the field of agricultural economics and has a strong track record of leadership and expertise in various international and domestic roles. His dedication to agricultural development and food security has made him a respected figure in his field. Now, I have the pleasure to leave the floor His Excellency Al-Dukhairi. We are eager to hear your insights on these megatrends. Yes, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. It's my pleasure to be here also this afternoon to provide some insights about the topic laid down for the discussion. And let me start by saying when we start talking about urbanization and rural transformation, urbanization is in fact a series and serious rural to urban drift, and it happens in developed and in developing nations. As we speak right now, some of the developed nations in the literature, in the jargon, they are still talking about rural to urban drifts. So it's not a feature that is dominant only in the developing nations, but rather in almost all communities. What is the reason for that? In summary, everybody is seeking better livelihoods. And it's a fact that in most of the countries, good services, better opportunities are found in urban settings. That's why people are urged to make that kind of movement from the rural setup to where they can find better opportunities. And that may be better jobs and income, better health facilities, and better education. Those are among the most prominent and common reasons for that rural-urban drift. Farming might not have caught up with the challenges and expectations. Challenges on one side, facing the ag sector, and expectations of the occupants of that farming setup, which is mostly in rural context. Definitely, there are urban farming, but most of the farming, the farming setup and agri-food systems, more or less, are rural-based. But in essence, those rural agri-food systems, as I said, might not have caught up with the challenges, so productivity might have been low, income coming from farming might not have also caught up with the level of income required to have a decent life, and also the expectation of the occupants in that regard, which will force them then to seek opportunities outside the rural setting. So rural transformation is a concept and arrangements to tackle the critical aspects and challenges of urbanizations. And what are the main features of this transformation? I quote here 4 important entry areas. Number 1, better rural service sector. So if we really want to retain and keep at least the occupants of the rural setup where they are, we need first of all to make sure that there is a rural services that meet the expectations of the occupants. The second entry point is better rural economy. And that means better job opportunities and decent income to at least convince the occupants that life here and in the urban setup may or may not differ much. The third one, we have to tackle the serious question of better agri-food systems. This is a very, very big concept. If we unpack it, it requires sessions and sessions to talk about what do we mean by better agri-food systems, but at least efficient, effective food systems that will provide the necessary requirements of a better livelihood for the occupants. And fourth, critical interventions. And let me cite just few critical interventions that will help us move or at least revert this rural-urban drift, which is urbanizations, in other words, I have put down here 4 critical interventions. The first one is really financial inclusion, especially for SMEs, to support the rural activities. The second one is focused rural advisory services, especially those termed and characterized as pro-poor interventions, targeting the lower segment of the communities. And that's not often the case. Even in today's jargon and language, when we listen or when we hear SMEs, we need to make sure that it's really inclusive. I mean, the financial arrangements, the technological arrangements, whatever we talk about engaging with a small-scale farming setup or SMEs at large, we have to make sure that finally that poor setup of the community is not left behind. The third one is encouragement and promotion of both private sector and civil society organization. And the session before us was entirely devoted to the role of civil society organization and empowerment of youth and women, and that is very critical in the kinds of interventions that are required to revert the rural-urban drift. The last one, but not the least, is also encouragement of rural agro-processing. And also the session just before us, one of the speakers, key speakers, they talk about the Tunisian experience, and it's in one way or another, it's about agro-processing. If we look to the kinds of products coming from the rural setup, we need to add some value to that one to make it contributing more to the income level that is required at the rural level to retain people. I think agro-processing will be one of the critical interventions that we should pay attention to make sure that those who are engaging are getting the payoff that is required. So thank you very much for these few words. That is my contribution. I will remain ready to interact if there are some questions and concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Actually, as format of this panel, I encourage our audience to involve asking questions after this delivery of the remarks. And before giving the floor from our audience, Your Excellency, you have mentioned different trends, and you also pointed out these critical interventions in this urban-rural drift. You mentioned on financial inclusion, especially supporting the SMEs, providing these extension services and proper interventions, and also encouragement of this private sector CSO synergy, and also lifting out with those who are living in the rural poverty for a certain level. So, in the morning session, my colleague, Mr. Manafi, introduced IOFS as the mirror of FAO in the Islamic world, and your organization as a mirror of these FAO in Arab world. Could you also give us a bit trends in different regions, for example, in Sahel, in Middle East, in North Africa? What are the major bottlenecks? Because when we break down each region, each special geographical locality, there are different trends, somehow diverting from the major trends. As you are working in the focusing on the Arab countries, could you elaborate on different trends in various regions and how it impacts especially on this urban-rural continuum? Maybe my intervention will be on that. And also, I encourage our audience to be asking questions if there is any. Yes, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. I think in the region, which I would like really to emphasize, there are two critical features that we need to pay attention to. The number one is our region, and it's in fact most of the countries under the OIC fall in this massive desertification region
Yes.
from the east to the west.
Yes.
And when we talk about rural setup, in effect, we are talking about people living in the desert. And in that region also, there is this water scarcity issue, very dominant in this region. We know the level of development is also crippled to a great extent. Access to the technology in that region also somehow hindered because of the continuous unrest in that region, conflicts and political problems.
Exactly,
in
that's
that
what I
region.
wanted to ask. At that point, I also, sorry to interrupt you, but especially we are seeing this ongoing conflict between pastoralists and residents, and so especially on the Sahel region, what we witnessed recently, this ongoing conflict on limited resources, particularly on water, it will be a mega trend relevant for different parts of the world, but especially in the Arab region, Middle East region. Yes, please.
Very, very much. And here is the intersect between the Arab region and the African context. And that conflict over natural resources, specifically grazing lands and water resources, which is oftentimes develops into more of a political nature or diplomatic, even sometimes crisis. But it's a fact. And as I said, the cornerstone, the key driver for that, or maybe the main reason behind that, is those resources, pasture and farming at large, are facing these challenges. When I say desert and desertification, in effect, we are also talking about the climate change, because there is a manifestation of climate change very serious and very critical. We keep on in this issue of problems with water resources. You know, specifically, if we take, like in the Arab region, 76% of farming is rainfall dependent. And the current trends in the rainfall as a result of these climate changes is in effect erratic pattern of rainfall. Sometimes we have a drought spell that extends for 45, 50 days. Imagine if farming starts sometimes in June or early July, and in August you have a dry spell of 45 days. You lose everything, you ought to start all over from the beginning. The season is already over. So you may even face a situation whereby farming is almost in that specific year is out of the context. So I think this takes us immediately to this conflict over natural resources between farmers and pastoralists, but oftentimes it develops further and further, and it might involve some tribal conflict, it might involve some political conflict. So that unrest is very critical, and oftentimes when such unrest happens, you see this rural-urban drift in its, ugly face. Thousands and thousands of people move to where they seek refuge, this time not necessarily better livelihood, or at least to save their lives. So I think this challenge in our region, which is has a climate change dimension, whether desertification or scarcity of water resources, and also, of course, scarcity of the green cover in one way or another. Pasture is one of those. So that's a very critical challenge in that region. And I think if we compare what happens during the 50s and the 60s as compared to now, the scene has completely changed. People used during 50s, 60s to remain settled and provide, and the rural setup provides them with the required livelihood. It's no longer possible that. So most of our population right now in that region are around big cities and also small cities.
So you are righteously mentioned that trend, and also maybe if there is no other intervention from audience, I will ask one more question, because now concepts are becoming more fluid, especially when we are going to these iconic urban-rural, but also we are seeing that the peri-urban areas also appearing in the skirts of the big cities, in the skirts of these mega cities, metropolises, and they also have different needs, different dynamics, especially for food consumption. As you also pointed out, supporting the SMEs and to minimize the stress on the resources within the city. How can we equip different structures like cooperatives, as we have seen in the previous session, women-led organizations, youth-led organizations? How can we create better synergies with the private sector to be in line with the demands of the market, demands of the trends, maybe in line with that peri-urban reality? How do you interpret in the Arab world? Thank you.
Thank you. I think one important point is that now this peri-urban setup and urban-rural drift is not something transient. It's almost persistent. So it requires policymakers to take it really serious and plan for it. Because the answer is not to push people back to the rural areas. They will stay there in the urban and peri-urban setting. So that means it requires proper planning, targeting those people in their new setup. And one important entry point will be, how are you going to organize them? I mean, you need an entry point. Cooperatives is one way of organizing those individuals sitting in that setup. Creation of some relevant civil society organization is another important setup. And we have worked with some women in a peri-urban setting. We managed to transform them from just simply producers to seed producers. We just trained them, set them up, give them the right knowledge, so they engage with sincerity. They managed to become seed producers with their tag and their companies, but we managed to organize them and put them in a different setting. So I think creation of those civil society organizations, issues of social protection, to a great extent is very important, because when this drift happens, you need first to make sure that some, at least the minimum is being provided to them to settle down. Then you need to organize them. Then you need to engage them. So SMEs will then come later on. After you set up everything, you have those because they, in one way or another, are part and parcel of civil society organization in their original villages or rural setup. When they move here, everything will fall apart. So you need to set up that once more in a new setting with new mechanisms, with new tools, so that at least you get them engaged. They will become part and parcel of the ongoing economic efforts in the country. But very important for the policymakers is not to look to this as something transient. It happens in our region from the 60s. It is still there. Very likely it might continue. So it requires for policymakers to take it as given and plan for it properly. At the first, as I said, you need all kinds of social protection to make sure that things are normalized in the first place, but then you need to plan for them properly and take them through the process. They will become very active and contributing to the economy, and that is what is required to be put in place right from the beginning. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We are enlightened with your interpretations, and mashallah, as an academician and also as a policymaker and as a leader, you really wrapped up the ongoing trends and also possible interventions. Now, if there is not any intervention from the audience, without due delay, now it's a turn to have a recorded remarks from Dr. Kerry Fowler. Before we move to his recorded speech, let me to introduce him, those who are not familiar. Dr. Kerry Fowler is a renowned figure known for his pivotal role in establishing the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. I think it's one of the mega seed bank, and it was held by the UN Secretary General, previous Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, as a symbol of peace and global food security. This facility safeguards over 1 million unique crop varieties, serving as the foundation for agriculture and future plant breeding efforts. Formerly, Dr. Fowler served as the executive director of the Global Crop Diversity Trust, a renowned international organization co-sponsored by the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization and the Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research. His career includes professorships at the Norwegian University of Life Sciences and roles at the Biodiversity International, where he contributed to the UN's initial global assessment of plant genetic resources. Appointed to the Board for International Food and Agricultural Development in 2015, Dr. Fowler's commitment extends to his service on boards such as the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center and his chairmanship of the Livestock Conservancy. A member of Council on Foreign Relations, Dr. Fowler has received numerous accolades, including honorary doctorates and awards. His remarkable work has been featured in the documentary film Seeds of Life. Dr. Fowler's contributions have left an indelible mark on global agricultural and food security. Now, I have the pleasure to invite you to hear the recorded remarks of Dr. Fowler. Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Kerry Fowler, and I'm the Special Envoy for Global Food Security at the U.S. Department of State. We're all here because we care about food security, but I think there's one other thing that joins us as well. We have a nagging suspicion that something about this global food crisis is different. Something is different this time. The numbers of food insecure people are greater. The crises seem to be more frequent. The causes seem to be larger in number, and they seem to be more intractable, not just one-off or temporary. Since the late 1970s, we've had an unbroken string of months in which the global average temperature for that month exceeded the 20th century average. Something really is different. This is not a moment where business as usual is the appropriate response. Business as usual is not going to give us the amount of change needed to reverse course and to avoid disaster. In agriculture, sometimes incremental change is necessary. You can't always take a big leap forward. Small steps are required. But since the Green Revolution days, more than a half a century ago, we've become accustomed to incremental change. And I think one message I want to give you today is maybe we shouldn't become so accustomed to that. Maybe it's something we can't bank on. We know that the current pace of incremental change in crop yields, for example, is going to leave us far short of where we need to be by 2050. So we need to think boldly. We need to act boldly. We need some game-changing developments in agriculture and food security. Earlier this year, we announced the Vision for Adapted Crops and Soils, or VACS as we're calling it. VACS was premised on the understanding that food security fundamentally depends on fertile soils and adapted crops. Or, put another way, degraded soils and unadapted crops are never going to provide for food security. Even today's production levels might not be sustainable. VACS aims to foster more resilient food systems by developing climate-resilient, nutritious crop varieties and building healthy, fertile soils. Initially, we're focusing VACS on Africa. It's the region with the greatest need and the greatest potential. On soils, we seek to help African governments and farmers answer 4 fundamental questions, all of which require data and analysis that my government and our farmers here have, and which are mostly lacking in Africa. We need to remedy that. The first question is where to plant. The answer to that question will help governments to promote effective land use planning, underpin infrastructure development that they're undertaking, and of course, underpin better food production itself. Second question, what to plant, will help farmers and governments make good decisions to maximize productivity, resilience, and nutrition. Third question, what management system to employ? That's where we have to integrate everything we know about the environment, the soils, the crop varieties, to help farmers make informed decisions. And the fourth question, how do we apply all that in a given year, in a given season? That's where we hope to expand the access to hyperlocal, timely recommendations to help farmers make the kind of management decisions in real time that they need to better manage their inputs, such as fertilizer. Africa is the continent where precision agriculture is more needed than anywhere else in the world. The farmers need that kind of detailed scientific knowledge about their soils that good management, sustainable practices, and productive agriculture require. With the soils work, we're working with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, the CGIAR, the International Fertilizer Development Center, and others through our USAID Feed the Future initiative. On the crop side, we have partnered with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization and the African Union and many others on a three-step program. We know that over-reliance on a few staples is risky, and in the best of years, it can't provide an adequate diet or balanced nutrition for everyone. The good news is that Africa is rich with nutritious traditional and indigenous crops. African traditional and indigenous crops have suffered from years of neglect and underinvestment. The African Union's Common Position on Food Systems makes this point over and over again. Expanding the spotlight and investments in these crops can unlock the potential to provide better nutrition, rebuild soils, support local communities and their cultures, and strengthen resilience. One of the things that really thrills me the most is that most of these crops we're talking about are tended by women, and serving the interest of women farmers in Africa serves the interest of children. The first step was to look at all those traditional and indigenous crops in Africa and ask which of those crops have the most potential for providing more nutrition. We narrowed the list down from 300 to 60. The next step is going to be to look at those 60 crops and ask, how are they going to do in a climate-changed world? On the basis of knowing which crops have the most nutritional value and most potential to provide good production in Africa, we can make informed decisions on crop breeding and other efforts. And then the third effort is to establish the mechanisms needed to support that kind of work in a sustainable and in a fundamental way. This doesn't mean that the United States or any of us involved are abandoning our work on major crops. It simply means that we're adding to this and taking advantage of the really tremendous cost-benefit ratio and the human health benefits that some of these traditional and indigenous crops offer. What are these crops? Well, they're crops like pigeon pea and grass pea, lob and American yam bean, African yam bean. All those are legumes that will help build soil as well. Spider plant, moringa, and fonio, and African eggplant, and African custard apple. But there are also some crops that are fairly familiar to us that are major crops but still need much more work, and that's sorghum and finger millet, okra, yams, cowpea. We could go on and on. The program that I'm talking about is not going to solve all problems. No program could. But it does address two fundamental prerequisites for food security: having good soils and having good crops. So I want today to ask you to please join us. This effort is one that many governments and institutions are joining. We in the United States, along with the African Union and FAO, have catalyzed it. To strengthen food security and increase resilience, we need the kind of intergenerational and transformative initiatives that we're proposing today with FACTS. And for this to happen, which it must, we need a dramatic change in the conversation that we're having about food security, a change in the dialogue. I hope this event contributes to that kind of conversation. Thank you.
So in his absence, we thank to Dr. Kerry Fowler for the immense work that he is doing. Actually, his address on seeds development is very crucial. And as IOFS, we are working with different stakeholders within our member states to support their gene banks, modernization, introducing them the new varieties, and these kind of exchanges. So without further ado, now I'm honored to introduce His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Abdus Salam Al-Madani, Executive Chairman of the Dubai International Humanitarian Aid and Development, DHAD Foundation. Before leaving him the floor, let me to share his biography. Ambassador Dr. Abdus Salam Al-Madani is a distinguished global leader in healthcare, diplomacy, and corporate leadership. He serves as the chairman of Waterforce Global, an initiative by the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Possibilities, focusing on healthcare professional education. His significant humanitarian contribution includes founding the DHAD, Sustainable Humanitarian Organization, dedicated to sustainable improvements in crisis-affected regions. Under his leadership, DHAD has launched initiatives like the DHAD Humanitarian College, Forever Care, DHAD Glass House, DHAD Hackathon, Humanity Without Borders chapters, Right for DHAD campaign, and the DHAD conference and exhibition. Ambassador Dr. Al-Madani's leadership extends to Index Holding in Dubai, where he chairs various subsidiaries covering healthcare, events management, business investment, media, and design. So I have the pleasure to leave the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Al-Madani, whichever you feel comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. في البداية, first of all, so let's talk in English. First of all, I would like to thank organizer for inviting me and have a chance to talk in this unique conference, which is, I think, the second annual meeting. Yes. Hope to continue to have one of the best annual meeting in cooperation with all of us and support to be the largest event in the Islamic country. Thank you very much. You already given the brief about the DHAD, who we are, but I will go very fast and very quick about who we are. The DHAD has been established in 2004, and today, thanks God, we have more than 645 non-profitable organizations in private and public sector. They are our members from many countries in the world. And the DHAD concept is the non-profitable organization, non-religion, no away from the nationality, religion, colors, whatever it is, just focusing on the humanitarian and focusing in sustainable project. And the main objective that to help the poor to not be poor. So based on that, I think the DHAD today, 20 years achievement, we reach to support 165 million euro to reach our 2 million population from the 190 country. So this achievement was not happening without having the strong partners. And in addition to that, I think DHAD has many initiatives, as His Excellency mentioned about some initiatives which is continuing going on and focusing on education, including the first humanitarian college master program in Spain in collaboration with the UCAM University in Spain. This humanitarian college, this 100% scholarship is sponsored by DHAD. Till now, we have 70 students, which is ready to graduate next year during the 20th anniversary of DHAT from 55 countries, fully sponsored scholarship. And this giving opportunity for further education, including the PhD and so many other subjects. When we come to the glass house, we have so many projects which we are supporting the youth in our members' country and who is not even member where there is an opportunity, and focusing mainly it is in the education as well and sustainable project in business and agriculture. The agriculture, which I think most of my colleagues here is mentioned, and I'm sure also the speaker online who recorded and mentioned about the importance of the food and security. It is one of the main subject which all of us we need to focus. Without food, without drugs, without education, without this, we don't have life. The subject, I think, is with the organization itself, which is the IOFS, is the focusing on the agriculture, how to support the members' country. I think the experience teach us, and we learn from the experience and case study, life case study, which we never forget, was the COVID-19. During the COVID-19, it is affected everywhere of corner of our life, from the business to the life to wherever you name it, airlines, everywhere. So in such crisis, I think many countries shocked us. Development country was not ready to face such crisis. Thanks God, at least in GCC, we are better managed to face such crisis. At least we was able to provide the food and drugs for our people and our residents, and not more than that, even more than 80% of the support gone from my own country, which was recorded by WHO, and many other support gone from the GCC country. But it which was shocked us, that many development country was not ready for such crisis. That's mean for us it's important to build the great strategic storage, independent agriculture for every country with latest technology, which is I think the aim of your organization. We talked in DHAT last time. And we are happy to work within our organization. And I'm glad we are going to sign this MOU today, I believe. So how we can be ready to be strategic level when in needed, we should be there. Independent agriculture is very important with latest technology. Today is, I know, the people talking about the soil, about the water, but with the new technology, you can do it, start from your home. So let's little bit change and come and talk out of the box. I believe the sustainable food and drugs supply chain is very important to have a safety and security for our people and for our next generation. Let's talk. Today, important, have the best education for our youth, especially the boys and girls, to be ready, to be involved in this. Today, nobody can say your country is not capable to work in this kind of business, to develop the agriculture in your country because of water, because of soil. You can see now the example, the real example. I think we have in UAE, in Oman, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in many countries you can see, in Egypt, in many areas you can see the development, how it's going when you come to the agriculture. Long time ago, they say, you guys, you need to import all this thing. There is no space for you to develop. But I think our people, proud of our young people and with the support of our country and leadership, that to have to be independent. That's why during the crisis, we independent even for our vegetable, for our food. I think you agree with us. You know, in Oman, I think we used to have a lot of fresh vegetable during crisis between Oman and UAE, I know. So lot of example I'm giving. So that's why I think it's better our conference and our organization in cooperation with our organization, which is member more than 645 non-profitable organization, join hand to hand to have the best platform, best opportunity for the youth for the next generation. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for these insightful remarks. As you mentioned, as a side note, today, after this session, you will be also signing an MOU between the DIHAD and also IOFS. So before moving to the next speaker, I will have a quick question that we also want to make this platform to introduce DIHAD more effectively. For those NGOs, civil societies, how can they be more vocal in your platform? Because we know that annually it's a big peer-to-peer discussion platform. So how better they can utilize DIHAD platform and other platforms? And you have this long experience. What might be the challenges? How can we improve these healthy discussions in that platforms? Yes, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. I think it is a good question. That's why I want to now make it more emphasized on this cooperation. Through that, of course, through the DIHAD organization, as well through the members of the DIHAD, which you are also one of the members of DIHAD. And in addition to that, in my capacity as the ambassador for the Mediterranean Parliament in the GCC, and being the chairman of the Global Scientific Research Study in San Marino, there are a lot of opportunity we can work together. And I am happy to facilitate all what we have to share with you guys, and anyone is interested to join us and even to be part of our annual meeting. It is, the membership is not costing anything. It is free because it's a non-profitable organization.
Maybe with due respect, when will be the next session? Those who are not familiar, they can be also marked on their calendars. When will be the next chapter of the DIHAD?
It is 23rd of the April to 25th of April 2024, which is our 20th anniversary, which will be the graduation of the student also will be part of that. There are a lot of other activities going parallel to the DIHAD conference and exhibition, and welcome everyone to be part of this event.
So this is not an announcement, also an encouragement for those representatives coming from different countries. Please, we need to celebrate platforms similar to DIHAD, which brings the voices and also peer-to-peer engagement. I don't know if there is any intervention from the audience. Any questions? Okay, with respecting time, as we have also another session, I would like to move to our next speaker. As we now remember these COVID days, we were always doing this online participation. Now, Professor Patrick Okori, Executive Secretary of the Regional Universities Forum for Capacity Building in Agriculture, RU Forum, will be joining us online. So before giving him the floor, let me to introduce Professor Okori as a speaker. Professor Okori is a Ugandan national who received his doctoral degree from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences in Uppsala in 2004. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Master of Science in Crop Science degrees from Makerere University in Uganda in 1994 and 1997, respectively. Professor Okori is an international academic expert in curriculum and program design, educator, trainer, research, innovator, and scientific leader. Until 2022, Professor Okori served as a principal scientist with the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT, in crop improvement, and was the deputy director of ICRISAT's Global Research Program on Accelerated Crop Improvement. Professor Okori is is also a thought leader who has been involved in high-level planning, strategy, and visioning for national, regional, continental, and global agencies. Now, we are eager to hear Professor Okori regarding his views on the ongoing megatrends on urbanization and agrarian change on sub-Saharan Africa and beyond. So, Professor Okori, are you online with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly. So, greetings to Kampala.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a bit of challenge, but we sorted it out. I would like to take this opportunity to thank IOFS to invite me to this meeting. We are very grateful. You are our good partner. I want to appreciate this topic of urbanization, rural transformation, and implications of food security. It's a very important topic, but very, very briefly before I jump into what I want to talk about, RUFORUM is a Pan-African organization predominantly made up of agricultural universities, and we aim to see vibrant, transformative universities catalyzing sustainable, inclusive agricultural development to feed and create prosperity for Africa. And we are in 40 countries out of Africa's 54. Why is this topic that you have chosen important? Number one, Africa's urban population is growing at about 3.5% per annum, roughly right now about 500 million people, and projected to be about 900 million by 2050. And that will be 2/3 of the African population will be living in town. Right now, 42% are living in urban settings. African cities have doubled from their 1990 levels. They are now 7,600 cities compared to 3,300 in 1990. And by the way, urbanization has been identified as one key vehicle that can create jobs, productivity, and service delivery. So I want to talk to the two topics out of the four that you asked us to talk about. You asked us to randomly choose two, but I chose two that I'm more familiar with. I want to talk about the complex rural-urban market linkages, and I'll raise just a few things so that we are all aware. Number one, African urban markets are largely fed by African producers, and there are about 60 million farms that are feeding Africa. These urban markets produce roughly $250 billion of business annually, but we import about 60 billion. So you can see what we produce and what we import are not really proportional. We import less than we actually we are able to produce. Now this is expected to double to about 120 by 2030. And then the other thing is our food system, what we eat and so on, is changing as we have been urbanizing and the middle class has been growing. And so people are moving away from starchy, staple, traditional foods to more processed, high-value, perishable foods from animal, fish, and horticulture. The meaning of all this is that we have to change the way we produce our foods by intensifying production and moving more to high-value commodities. Two, to reduce imports, Africa must change the way it produces its food, make it more competitive. That means more technology. But more importantly, we must be able to engage our youth because the youth make up almost 60% of Africa's population. If they are left out, it will not work. Now, moving forward to address this challenge, there are some policy implications to think about. And I want to talk about just one, about trade. So you see, Africa only trades within itself about 20%, and 80% of it trades with the outside world. Yet if it takes opportunity of new agreements like the African Union Commission has put in place there's something which is called Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we will be able to increase our trade opportunities by nearly 31%. And reduce and balance our trade balance of payments by nearly 51%. So just increasing internal trade by signing onto this is a good opportunity. Two, as Africa continues to urbanize and change its food systems, it also means that it has to import certain key staples. For example, we import about 17 million tons of tons of rice in 2022, but we produce 23 million metric tons. So we are still importing nearly as much as we are consuming of rice. So as we urbanize, these changes in the food system means that Africa will get more globalized food systems, and that's a problem. So how does education fit into this? I think part of the challenge has been planning and strategy design. Most of the things we do, the universities are locked out of this and would like to play a more proactive role in supporting evidence generation too. Universities are generally locked out of the food processing, the science and innovation. 33% of the staff around our African countries are not involved in generating science solutions. And we think if they played a big role, for example, in food processing alone, we could reduce post-harvest losses by about 10 to 12%. That means we'll get on board about 1.3 billion tons of grain annually. This can feed Africa, reduce the imports, but also support export. So to the second topic of employment and challenges, it's important to note that Africa has the world's youngest population, but our continent can only generate a third of the jobs it needs to generate annually. It must generate 20 million jobs, and we are doing about a third of that annually. So something must be done. Now, many of these people are locked up in agriculture, and yet agriculture in a few years' time, 7 years from now, will be a $1 trillion industry. The youth must be part of that in order for the world to benefit. The other second thing to note about that is that most of the people who are producers are women. They're locked out, and youth and disadvantaged young men. They're locked out of production, and therefore it means that we need a completely different way of engaging our education and the broader science and technology to be able to productively contribute towards SDGs 1 to 5. So inclusion and diversity is a big issue. But the third and last one is the future of work. When you look at how work is changing over the next 5 to 10 years, artificial intelligence is going to influence many things, but it's going to do two main important ones. The first one is that we might have to lose some jobs to other sectors of the other regions of the world because they are more competitive and more efficient as industrialization and high quality tech shape around the world. Two, unless we catch up on digital technologies, it simply means that a lot of our systems will be inefficient. So we will continue importing food. And because of that, we must change the way we do what we do. So I wanted to propose just three things as I finish. One, and this is what we're trying to do as a forum. We think that there is need to strengthen investments in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and its allied disciplines such as digital technologies. Two, we must change the way we train young people, not just equipping them with basic skills, but we must give them what I'm calling work readiness skills. Three, it is now a known fact that the future for jobs is around investments that are green in nature. Anything that is not green in nature will not create a good job growth opportunity for our young people. And agriculture is one of those areas. We have piloted, and we can show that with investments of $7,000, it is possible for you to create at least 18 jobs. So that is a possibility. And finally, by changing the way we train and link up with other sectors in the ecosystem, bringing in the technical and vocational industry and other actors, linking all that with universities, I think we can be able to rebalance the ratio of scientists to development practitioners to users of technology, and thereby drive technology in a more inclusive way. With that, I want to yield chair to you. Thank you. In short, we must transform our education to produce people with 21st century skills. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Okori. And I am sure in our next session, we will elaborate on how we can engage youth, how we can better bring them to these green nature jobs, inclusivity, and also technology transfer in the agricultural sector. From our audience, is there any question to Professor Okori? If not, I will extend my thanks for joining us from Uganda, and thank you very much. And we want to see RU Forum in our future events and also the platforms with civil society organization, because we are exploring the possibilities to continue civil society thematic forums in the future, being more inclusive. Thank you very much, Professor Okari. So, without further ado, when it comes to the policy making and designing, effective interventions, having access to accurate data and knowledge is paramount. It's my honor now to introduce our colleagues from IOFS, who are tirelessly working on an innovative project, the Food Balance Database for OIC member countries. This initiative is a crucial step towards informed decision-making and sustainable solutions in the realm of food security and agriculture. So let's hear more about this vital project and the potential it holds for shaping a brighter future. I am honored to present my colleague, Dr. Shahlo Atabeyewa, and we will have a mixed format. Actually, Dr. Suat Atan also will join us with his short video. So while she's taking the stage, I want to give a very brief introduction of Dr. Shahlo Atabeyewa. She is a program manager at IOFS, supervises programs on OIC Plan of Action for Development of Rice and Healthy and Safe Food Ecosystem. Before joining to IOFS, Dr. Atabeyewa worked with several multinationals and international organizations such as FAO, DAI, and NIRAS International Consulting. Dr. Atabeyewa has a PhD in Business and Managerial Economics from the Moscow State University of Food Industry and Master of Science in Economics from the Tajik Technological University. Dr. Atabeyewa, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests. It's my honor to be presenting our food balance database, which is working together with esteemed Dr. Suat Atan. Unfortunately, today he is joining us online, and further on, I guess he will have an opportunity to be introduced by himself. So we would like to introduce to you this program because today we would like to discuss the topic of importance of the food security and the data, which is very critical in playing a very essential role while we are realizing the strategy of the food security and providing knowledge and aware our community on awareness and proper way of the making decision in what policy and what strategy should be applied. So in this regard, we would like to introduce our program, which is called Food Balance Database, and why it's important to be introduced, and why we are thinking that it is pivotal for especially for civil society. Because the main objective of our program is assess and monitor food security position or needs of our member countries, and move over just for efficient decision making. Another one, why it is unique compared to the other open sources, because together with Dr. Suat, we did a lot of efforts, on, let's say, separation of the data from TAIB and non-TAIB to be addressed to the OIC needs and vision, as well as just permission of the food which is considered to be eaten in the OIC member countries. For sure, we have today a lot of data sources which is accessible in the open sources, but in this regard, we are using the methodology of UNFAO dated on 1992 on explanation of the halal and tayyib food. Further on, I will explain why we are just working and called it tayyib food, because if you are considering here, and you are just, His Excellency Ms. Zahra is already just left, but she can explain, she can support us. You know that the data is providing, especially in the FAO data, was by SPS code. And during the elaboration of this data, we have just elaborated more than 2,344 food item position, which is presented within 10 years from 2010 to 2020 in 57 OIC member countries. So after just a selection, let's say, and the separation of the items, more than 274 items of records would consider like a non-tayyib. And then more than 17 is just considered like a suspicious, because we are not sure, because we are not basing on any scholars which is Muslim Islamic world as following, but we are following the main concern of the what is tayyib food, and the very simplifying understanding, yes, what is a lawful, and just deducting only these items which is considered and presented in the presentation. So in this regard, it was very interesting observation when we did this separation. We found out that countries like Kazakhstan and Nigeria are leading in production of non-tayyib food. And therefore, just such observation, I guess, would be useful, especially to understand the dietary needs of our member countries and put on the strategic vision while we are going to discuss about strategy of the food security. So why tayyib and the non-tayyib? Because if we are talking about halal, halal requires certification, and not all countries have a possibility or ability to get halal certification in time. At the same time, if we are talking about certification, they have duration limitation regarding what kind of the companies are providing, and depends on the country requirements. Just requirements in terms of getting this halal, it is big differences. So in this regard, to simplify our elaboration, we are just putting simple major concerns regarding these items, and we call this like a tayyib food database, which is possible to find in our domain, which address will be introduced later on. So why and who can use this database is the most important issue which we would like to arise during this discussion. Today it was a wonderful discussion and wonderful speech of DHAT, of the AOED, of the RU Forum, as well as USAID. All of them are mentioned about the situation of the food security, but considering in proper and reliable data is very essential, especially if you are talking about strategy, especially in the Muslim countries, with the dietary requirements is completely different compared to the rest of the world. So in this case, we would like to introduce, maybe very simplify, who is the usage of this database. It is for sure policymakers, who are government representative, trade and export opportunities, and therefore just, for example, supply chain management system, and for sure, customization and visualization, we are talking about use, we are talking about next generation, as it was emphasized during the Your Excellency Ambassador of Director General of DHAT. So if we just, there is some data, just the visualization, which we already downloaded in our database, and I guess each of you have unlimited access to this, to enter, to see, to observe by yourself, and to use it. And we would be highly appreciated to see, to observe that as much as possible, participants, just involvers, just consider and using this data. I would like now just to introduce a video of Dr. Suad Atan, who can simply and general explain how to utilize our insight. Please.
So before listening to the video, also I want to raise an issue. When we are talking about data and also big data, people are scared to use it. I think Dr. Suad's explanation will simplify and show how it is easy to reach out by the different stakeholders. So before giving that video, I will also briefly introduce Dr. Suat Atan. He is a data scientist working at IOFS, and he developed this IOFS database application for collecting and visualizing food security from various resources. He holds a PhD in business administration, and also he's a dedicated the lecturer and working in on different areas on agriculture and rural development. And additionally, he completed a postdoctoral program at the University of Degli in Torino, and he has authored 2 books on data science. So we can move with his explanation. Yes, please.
Please.
Hello, I am Suat Atan, data scientist in IOFS. We built a software named IOFS DB. The starting point behind this application of the IOFS DB is the necessity of data-driven decision-making. There's a saying for the data, the oil of modern times. Data mining is the expression used for the analysis for this valuable asset. But what data are we talking about? We are, of course, referring to all data in the world from various resources related to food security. And this data exists in raw form in different sources, and most of them are waiting to be processed. This is where IOFS Data Food Balance Sheet or IOFS DB program comes into play with the goal of processing this big data. Here you are seeing our application, some aspects of our application, and their visualization. These data can sometimes be too vast, sometimes too complex, sometimes technical, and often non-standard due to their diverse source. IOFS database is making those data clear, understandable, and interpretable. Of course, this is done exclusively for the member countries. The reason for this is to be able to zoom in on the specific positive and negative aspects regarding the food security of the member countries. For these purposes, we can say all data source has its own insights, and we want to share this data. And we believe seeing these opportunities for collaboration among members and understanding the threats can only be achieved through this approach. Therefore, we have implemented IOFS DB application and continue to update it constantly. While doing this, we also filter the data from the non-TAIB items, taking into account the dietary needs, dietary consumption of the member countries. For this purpose, we have developed an analytical pipeline. Thank you for your interest and listening.
So we extend our thanks to our colleagues at IOFS, and maybe with just reminding that we will continue to another session, maybe I can have a quick question. So,
For sure.
Who holds the data and knowledge, also holding the power? So, as we see that with that open platforms,
Yes.
not only the states, the companies can reach out with data. So, how can civil society organizations utilize that platforms and similar platforms? Maybe you can briefly mention that opportunity.
Okay. First of all, I would like to introduce, if you pay attention while Dr. Suat making presentation, it was one line pipeline indicated nutrition index. We did a great job together jointly with the CESRIC, meteorological institution of the OIC, regarding calculation of nutrition, food nutrition index for OIC, considering dietary concerns of the OIC and the consumption in the Islamic world. I guess it is a first step which can be improved and further, and we are calling all our organizations, just including AOED and DHAD, to be a part of this initiative to develop and to provide proper data in order to develop this database, which is considering and just addressed to the food security, especially in the OIC member countries, considering the specific of nutrition, a specific of food security, the specific of the differences between the region, and specific of the, let's say, dietary culture of consumption. And further, I would like to invite Dr. Suat. Maybe he can just provide more proper reply to your question, if you allow.
Thank you very much. So,
Dr. Suat, floor is yours, I guess.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, Dr. Suat, we are here, yeah.
So briefly, Dr. Suat, we can hear your extra comments on how these platforms can be better utilized for civil society organizations. We really appreciate. Very brief, please.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing this critical question, and thank you for distinguished participant. So I think this data platform will help to, as we mentioned, for decision making in contact agnostic level. What it means, meaning to say, it will be usable for all type of decision making, especially for risk reduction, maybe for resource management, for crisis management, and awareness, raises awareness among the consumers and producers. For risk reduction, we can say to monitor and predict food security threats and enabling the early preventive measures. I think it will be a quick answer.
Thank you very much. And as Dr. Shahlo shared her presentation, that for any further questions, they can reach out and they can explore our website to make best of it, this platform. Thank you very much for your contributions. And now I also want to thank all of our speakers, panelists. And without further ado, I would like to move to the next session, and I will take my other hat as the master of ceremony. So let's give a round of applause for our panelists, and we will move to our next session. Thank you very much. So, while my colleagues are preparing the stage, and I really want to also thank for our audience, as we have these back-to-back sessions, but I hope the discussions are lively and also encouraging stimulus for different debates. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to introduce our next and final session of today, which is panel discussion 3, Youth Feeding the Future. So before I leave to my colleague, Ms. Makbal Bulatova, Program Manager, I graciously invite her to take her seat, and other panelists on the platform. So I hope you will be stay tuned for an engaging conversation on the pivotal role of youth in shaping the future of food security and agriculture, as we have elaborated in the previous sessions. So I kindly invite Ms. Makbal. Yes, please. So I also request our audience to stay. We will want to continue as it planned. So, Ms. Makbal, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Our distinguished guests, we would like to ask you kindly take your seats. This is our last session, and hopefully it will be very interesting and won't take much of your time. So the last session is dedicated to the youth in agriculture. And first of all, I would like to once again introduce myself. My name is Makbal Bulatova. I am the program manager of the Islamic Organization for Food Security. And I'm honored today and very privileged to welcome all of you in our civil society forum and in our session, which is has very critical theme, youth feeding the future in the context of the agriculture and the food security. And first of all, I would like to invite our esteemed speakers. Mr. Adam, Mr. Dario Abdullah Kamal, and Mr. Muhammad Al-Botti to the stage. Also, I would like to inform you once again that actually the format is hybrid, and we have online speaker. Thank you, dear speakers. Yeah, please. First of all, I would like to give some brief information and the rationale why we focus on this session on youth. Actually, today, the address of a pressing issue and inspiring opportunity, the pivotal of our youth in securing the future of agriculture and food security. While it's true that we've observed a shift in the interest of youth away from agriculture, so it's critical to remember that our population is growing. Consequently, the absolute number of young individuals dependent on farming and livestock production is set to rising significantly. Our youth face substantial challenges, including high unemployment rates, especially among young women. Even when they secure jobs, many grapple with working poverty and vulnerable employment. Access to essential resources, such as land and credit, remains elusive, hampering the ability to establish livelihoods. Representation in workers, unions, and producers' organizations is also limited for many young people. Yet, paradoxically, today's youth are leading a transformation of agriculture and food system. Engaging across the value chain, they employ various approaches, often driven by modern practices, technology, and the allure of innovation. Access to land, finance, and skills consistently emerge as the top constraints to youth engagement in agriculture. Our session explores the solution with a focus on the OIC geography, initiatives in skills development, financial literacy, and strengthening youth organizations have demonstrated positive impacts, promoting land rights, awareness, and facilitating access to legal services, and so critical components of the solution. So our esteemed panel of speakers bring a wealth of experience and expertise from diverse backgrounds, each actively engaged in initiatives that address the most pressing challenges faced by young people in the context of agriculture and food security. Their contributions span continents and encompass advocacy, education, empowerment, and innovation, all aimed at empowering youth to become the architects of more food-secure world. In conclusion, we aim to unearth opportunities and empower our youth as architects of change within the agriculture and food security. As we engage in this dialogue, let us embrace the diversity of youth segments and their interactions within the agri-food system. Through research and collaborative efforts, we can unlock the benefits of a youth-inclusive approach tailored to the unique context of our region. Together, let us chart a path toward a more food-secure and equitable future where our youth truly fit the future within the OIC geography. So I would like to give a floor to our first speaker. He is supposed to be online. And can we open the Zoom, please? So our first speaker is Mr. Hamza Farouk, founder of Bondi Shams. We'll just give a brief information. Mr. Hamza Farouk is a distinguished graduate of Williams College with the specialties of economics, political science, and international relations. He brought this idea of this accessing the safe water to Pakistan and move it into global, and materializing his vision through the establishment of the Bondi Shams, a groundbreaking water charity. He conceived the Oasis boxes, a revolutionary, portable, and efficient solar-powered water purification system, making substantial strides since 2014. And by delivering over 996 million cups of clean water in 5 countries. Beyond water, Mr. Hamza, through Bondi Shams, impacting communities by advancing educational and economic empowerment, emphasizing clean water as fundamental human right. Mr. Hamza, do you hear us?
I can, yes. Can you hear me?
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Perfect. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss and speak on this extremely important topic. It is a topic very close to my heart. It is a topic that I've had the distinct pleasure of discussing in length with our colleagues and partners over at the IOFS. And I think, look, to set the stage, let me just say that, as background, I was born and raised in Pakistan. I was, I grew up in the context often of scarcity, and my challenges, the challenges that I faced in setting up the enterprise that has been very meaningfully introduced by the moderator, and the success we've had in bringing a solution to a global problem such as access to clean water. Those challenges are symptomatic. Those challenges are exemplary of the context within which a lot of the youth around the world, especially in developing and low-income countries, tend to face. So I would want to use the example and the presentation that I'll share over the 10 minutes to share one context within which challenges may not always mean the lack of development. Challenges may not always mean that much will not be achieved. In fact, challenges can mean exactly that, a challenge which should be overcome, and a challenge that you can overcome as a team. So, as a very brief background myself, I'm, having grown from Pakistan, I completed my undergraduate education in the US, and ultimately, currently I'm at Stanford University, conducting research within the energy space, conducting research on clean water, conducting research on entrepreneurship. So with that said, let me just take you back, and I'll quickly share my screen, and then let's see if we're able to. One second. Let's see if we're able to share this. Actually, I think with the presentation, I'm not sure if this team is able to pull it up. Are you able to pull it up on your end? Or if not, then I'm happy to just continue.
Yes, Mr. Hamza, we can share your presentation.
Perfect, that would be great. And as the presentation is being pulled up, let me just, okay, perfect. I can see that we have the presentation up. And what I would ask the person navigating the screen is to just continue flipping through as I say next, and then we'll be able to continue. So I think just setting the scene here, the vision that we had over at Bundeshams, and again, think of this as one example of something that can be achieved in the right context. Let's just move on to the next slide. So, our hope has been to end the global water crisis by 2050, and we want to do so by leveraging modern, robust, and cost-effective interventions for last-mile communities. And please continue flipping through the slides. I think you should continue until I ask you to, in fact, stop, because there are a number of slides that we will need to go through. So let's hit next on this, please. And so, I think I share this video from a part of Pakistan called Lucky Marwat. And the young kids you see here are children that we would often know in our own community, children who have to walk long distances in the search of clean water instead of being in school. And so I share this context because, how would one be able to focus on education if you're so busy with the such essential task of bringing clean water to your family, bringing clean water to your sisters, and to your mother who may be unable to sort of be part of economic activities, and hence this is quite important to focus on this problem. Let's flip to the next slide. And let's open the idea of the Oasis box. So, from my perspective, I've always been a dreamer. I've always been a problem solver. And when I saw this large problem of lack of access to clean water in these communities, my first instinct was to not create what was already being done. It was not to recreate the wheel. It was, in fact, to begin with this stage of ideation and try and form something new. And this is where I pulled up my sketchbook. I started drawing these crazy ideas, and people would look at me as if I was kind of a mad person for continuing to draw these small boxes with many lines. And ultimately what I was trying to draw was this idea and bringing it into place. And let's flip to the next slide. And what you'll see here is in 2014, my team and I were able to put in place this idea, this very basic prototype of something we were calling the Oasis box. It was this large, almost 10-foot container with some 18 panels that would roll out. But the idea was that these panels would allow you to access clean energy. It would allow you to filter water. And what's happened since then is, let's flip to the next slide. We've gone from having that idea to something far more real. We have this thing now, the blue boxes, the Oasis boxes. And these boxes are able to bring together the best of renewable energy. They're able to bring together youth entrepreneurship in the cause of solving this problem. So let's continue to the next slide. And the idea is quite simple. For us, the idea was to use submersible pumping systems to filter contaminated water, store it in a tank, and make it accessible to communities in need. This is extremely important, I would add, because oftentimes in last mile context, and this is exactly my piece of research at the moment, which is you want to bring the best of research, right? And you want to bring instruments that are easy to maintain. Let's move to the next slide. And what that ultimately means, we can forward this again. I think it's a repeat of the video. Let's move to the next slide. And part of it is to bring this novel approach to it, which is fine, we were functionally able to solve the context, the problem of clean water, but we didn't want to stop there. What we wanted was for the world to understand that when you start solving a problem and you're aware of the intricacies of that problem, you can have a solution which is much better than what the world was used to beforehand. And again, I think I speak as a representative for the rest of my team. It is not just my work, it is a work of a lot of young people and entrepreneurs and researchers and scientists coming together and creating these things. So what we created was what's called the Impact Tracking and Transparency Portal. And the idea was, and let's move to the next slide, that you can have these Oasis boxes embedded with these devices called the remote monitoring unit. And let's move to the next slide, please. And ultimately, what you're able to do is you can sit in the comfort of your home. You're able to log on to our internal portal, and you're able to see the exact impact of the dollars spent on these devices. And this picture is from Yemen. So what we're able to do is, in fact, go into this portal and actually see exactly what's happening, see those pictures, see the real life impact. And I share this because this is a novel innovation, and it was inspired by us, operating in last mile jurisdictions. And the idea was we wanted to uplift the charitable sector. What we wanted to do was make sure that we're bringing the best of technology from a monitoring space, from a functional standpoint, and make it accessible to communities in need. Let's move on to the next part of the presentation. Let's and in that stead, we've been able to get to 5 different countries. This number of cups of clean water has grown to almost 200 million at this point. Let's continue to the next slide. Let's continue on. And I've got a few examples to share of real-time impact. Next slide, please. Again, we've been able to operate in multiple slides. And one context was, in fact, the 2022 floods in Pakistan, which many of you will be aware of. It was a devastating calamity that affected the country. And what we realized was, because we were a native solution to Pakistan, and because we were managing our own resource and manufacturing these units in Pakistan, we were able to rise to the challenge. And ultimately, we were able to install almost 20 clean water projects within a span of a couple of months for those most in need. And that could only really happen because we had broken the mold of the conventional solutions to introduce something which could be robust, which could be quick, it could help save lives. Let's continue on to the next slide. And ultimately what happened was, I was asked upon the kind of Zoom calls that I'm doing now. For the next, almost 15 days, I was on national television discussing this important problem. And I highlight this because when somebody, from my background, and somebody who's, taken an idea from the ideation stage that I shared with you all the way to execution and impact, you can really represent. And whenever I get these opportunities to speak on national and international media, my hope is always to represent the story of Bund Shams. My hope is to tell the stories that I've heard in South Sudan, the stories of impact and what we can achieve together. Let's move to the next slide. And I think this is an important context. Again, I think let's flip through these slides. Different partners coming together to help bring this unit to more places around the world. Let's move on to the next slides, please. Let's continue on. Next. We'll have one more. Next, please. Next, please. Let's flip on to the next slide. And I think let's actually go back. Go back one slide. We'll keep this here. So this is where I want to take a pause and actually open up the discussion, because one example I wanted to share was with the IOFS, in fact, in Afghanistan. This was quite special. This was, in fact, driven by our partnership in Dihad in 2022. And the management and sort of the entrepreneurial and innovative spirit over at IOFS was able to work with us and see the innovation and the possibility that was allowed by the OSS box. And we were able to together travel to Afghanistan, and this was the height of the crisis. We were able to bring assistance and visit the communities together and implement one of these projects. And I think the reason I wanted to use that context as a particular example is as follows. Now that you know the story, you will be able to see that the approach that we've taken of representation, it is, again, symptomatic of the issues that one faces as an entrepreneur, but it's also hopefully, creates an example of the kind of entrepreneurship that is possible. I have worked with youth in South Sudan, I've worked with the youth in Pakistan in many different areas, and one thing is clear. People want to move away from dependence. People want to move away from charitable giving. People want to move away from this idea of dependence upon the rest of the world. The two things are clear. One, people want to be self-reliant. People want to be self-sufficient. And when you operate with that mindset, what you realize is that fundamental needs such as clean water are, of course, mandatory before you can begin a deeper conversation upon education or entrepreneurship. But what people are, and the youth in this context is extremely focused on now is saying what we would like for platforms like Dihad or, multinational organizations to really create for us is not this system where you keep giving us the dollars free of charge. What we want is for you to actually right the wrongs of historical injustice around the lack of resource or colonization by actually creating and investing in our own institutions. And those institutions may be schools, or those institutions may be a chance to grow your own business so people can be self-reliant. So I think, I'll take a pause there and open it up to a broader discussion as we go on. But I think the last thing I'd leave everybody with is that the sky's the limit. If you're able to solve the basic problems such as clean water and education, we operate in a world where generative AI is taking the world by storm. A lot of places around the world have access to the internet. And ultimately what that means is, in an agricultural point of view, from food security point of view, we may not need to follow the same path that others have followed for years before us. And what we really are able to do is actually leapfrog, right? So the context of, the African continent leapfrogging landlines to cell phones, that is exactly what we're able to create in the impact sector by leapfrogging years of dependence to internet-enabled, tech-enabled solutions for our own communities. And I think, again, I would want for everybody to think of Bunda Shams as one example. But again, Bunda Shams, this story is not possible without forums such as Dihad. It's not possible without...
Mr. Hamza, I'm so sorry. We have time limitation.
Sure. And I think that was the last comment. So I thank you very much.
I have to, yes, thank you so much, Mr. Hamza, for this very insightful share about the activities of the Bunda Shams. And what I wanted to just to share with our audience that together with the Bunda Shams, IOFS has delivered 6 Oasis boxes to Afghanistan last year. It has been successfully delivered to the different regions of the Afghanistan. Thank you so much. So I would like to also introduce our next speaker, who is Mr. Muhammad Al-Boti, President of Association of Basmat Al-Haya. Just very short information, Mr. Muhammad Al-Boti is a dedicated advocate for humanitarian causes and the founder of Association of Basmat Al-Haya, a remarkable association actively engaged in initiatives that touch the lives of countless individuals in need. And Mr. Mohammed's visionary leadership is the organization. The organization has achieved significantly the milestones during the initiative of the organization, and given the support for 7,500 children, organizing over 300 community events, and involving more than 800 volunteers. And one of the outstanding projects is the preservation of blessings that addresses food waste by collecting surplus food from the hotels and distributing it to those in need. And I think Mr. Mohammed, he can share more about the activities of the organizations. Mr. Mohammed, the floor is yours. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته جميعا. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. دولة قطر الكريمة، المنظمة الإسلامية للأمن الغذائي، أصحاب السعادة، الحضور الكرام. أسعد الله مساءكم جميعا بكل خير، وأتمنى من الله أن تكونوا جميعا بصحة وعافية. أود أن أشكركم نحن جمعية باسم الحياة الخيرية في الأردن على إتاحة الفرصة لنا للتحدث في هذه المواضيع الأمانة اللي هي مواضيع مهمة جدا وتخص الشباب وتخص المجتمع بشكل كامل. إذا تحدثنا عن الشباب فنحن في الجمعية كنا مبادرة شبابية منذ عام 2008. كنا طلاب جامعيين، كان لدينا مجموعة من الأهداف. من ضمن الأهداف اللي كانت لدينا في الجامعات ألا وهي تمكين المجتمع وتعزيز دور الشباب في المجتمعات. وبفضل الله في عام 2021 أصبحنا جمعية حكومية مرخصة بعد أن كنا مبادرة شبابية، وتمكنا من السير في مجموعة متعددة من النشاطات ومجموعة متعددة من البرامج. من أبرز برامجنا كوننا نحن نتحدث عن الغذاء، نوجد لدينا مشروع هام سميناه مشروع حفظ النعمة. مشروع حفظ النعمة يتلخص بشكل مختصر، لا أريد أن أطيل عليكم، أعرف زملائي السابقين أطالوا عليكم، أنا بعتذر، لكن هو بشكل كامل. نحن في الجمعية يوجد لدينا مجموعة من المتطوعين نقوم بشبه يومي بزيارة الفنادق والحصول على الطعام الفائض منها الذي لم يلمس، ومباشرة نقوم بتوزيعه للعائلات المحتاجة. مشروعنا هذا بفضل رب العالمين لاقى رواج مستحسن في داخل بلدنا في الأردن، وبفضل رب العالمين استطعنا من التوقيع مع منظمة الأغذية العالمية بسبب أن هذا المشروع لاقى استحسانهم، وكان يصب بالذات في موضوع هدر الطعام. كونه أن نحن لدينا في الأردن بالرغم من أنه إحنا في الأردن بلد فقير مائيا، لكن لدينا سنويا كل مواطن أردني تقريبا يقوم بهدر 93 كيلو من الطعام. مجموع الهدر المترتب في الأردن يكفي لإطعام 1.5 مليون شخص. هذا فقط في الأردن، وهي الأردن بلد فقير مائيا ويعني محدود الموارد. من هذه النقطة أخذنا على عاتقنا في جمعية باسم حياة أن نقوم بمؤسسة هذا المشروع وتنظيمه. نحن نقوم بزيارات يومية. في العام الماضي عام 2022 بفضل رب العالمين قمنا بأكثر من زيارة لأكثر من 350 فندق، طبعا كلها فنادق تتبع فنادق ال5 نجوم. نحن نشترط على نفس الفنادق هذه أن يكون الطعام بجودة معينة. لا نريد للأشخاص المحتاجين أن نأخذ إليهم طعام يعني محدود، لا، نحن نلزم أنفسنا ونلزم شركائنا بأن يكون الطعام بجودة ممتازة حتى يتمكن الشخص المقابل من استقباله. دعوني أحدثكم قليلا لو تكرمتم ولن أطيل عليكم عن مشروعنا من حفظ النعمة. نقوم شهريا بزيارة لكل فندق تقريبا ما يقارب 25 إلى 30 زيارة. في كل زيارة كل يوم نقوم بإطعام ما يقارب 150 إلى 200 شخص فقط. هذا من الطعام الفائض من فندق واحد. هذا الطعام الفائض فقط من فندق واحد. ولاقى هذا استحسان عند الأهالي وآثار إيجابية. وكانت من أهم الآثار الإيجابية التي وجدناها عند الأهالي تخفيف العبء المادي عند الأهالي. ونتطرق كمان في جمعية بسمة الحياة كون المشروع يخص الشباب، وقمنا أيضا بتشغيل الشباب الموجودين في العائلات المستورة، حيث أننا نحن في الجمعية نقوم باستغلال الموارد البشرية للشباب الموجودين لدى الجمعيات المحتاجة، حيث نقوم بتوفيرهم وتوظيفهم، ونقوم بإعطائهم مكافآت نقدية محددة لكي نقوم بزيارة الفنادق وتجميع الطعام وتوزيعه على الأهالي. يوجد بعض التحديات التي تواجه الشباب الذين يعمقون معنا. من بعض التحديات التي تواجههم هي موضوع الوظائف اللائقة في بعض الشباب، وموضوع التمويل، وموضوع المعرفة والمعلومات والتعلم. وتنطلق هذه التحديات على نطاق واسع يشمل جميع الشباب في الدول النامية، كما يواجه الشباب الذين يقل عمرهم عن 18 عام تحديات إضافية أو مختلفة للوصول إلى الوظائف اللائقة أو النجاح في مجال ريادة الأعمال. فعلى سبيل المثال قد يؤدي وضعهم القانوني كقصر إلى التمييز ضدهم في التعيين وإعاقة حصولهم على الموارد والخدمات الإنتاجية مثل التمويل أو الانضمام لعضوية المنظمات التي تمثلهم. وكثيرا ما يكون التدريب المهني الملائم غير متوافر في بعض المناطق الريفية، إلى جانب ضعف دعم الانتقال من مرحلة الدراسة إلى مرحلة العمل. ويعمل الكثيرون في هذه المرحلة العمرية، وكثير ما يتعرضون للمخاطر المؤثرة على صحتهم وسلامتهم. وعندما يعمل الشباب في سن 15 إلى 17 في أعمال خطرة، يقع هذا العمل ضمن فئة الأعمال الخطرة التي يعاقب عليها القانون الدولي والوطني. لكن لدينا سؤال: كيف يمكن مواجهة هذه التحديات؟ من خلال توجيه المزيد من الاهتمام للشباب الذين يقل أعمارهم عن 18 عام وبلغوا الحد الأدنى لسن العمل، لأن هذه المرحلة في حياتهم هي التي ستحدد قراراتهم في كيفية الانتقال من مرحلة الدراسة إلى مرحلة العمل، واحتمالية خروجهم من دائرة الفقر. الكثير منهم خرجوا بالفعل من المدرسة ويحاولون الإنفاق على أنفسهم وعلى عائلاتهم، ولكن الشباب أقل من 18 عام يستبعدون في الغالب أثناء تصميم السياسات والبرامج التي تدعم تشغيل الشباب وتنفيذها. نقوم نحن في الجمعية من ضمن خطة وبرامج ومشاريع بوضع وتحديد فرص للأعمال للأطفال للشباب داخل المشروع، والأهم من ذلك وضع خطط تفصيلية عن المهارات التي ممكن أن يكتسبوها كل شاب من ضمن المهارات التي ممكن أن يكتسبها، وذلك من خلال مشروعنا من أجل إشراكهم ببرامج ودورات تأهيلية في كل هذه. تكمن الاستراتيجيات التي يمكن استخدامها لتشجيع الشباب في بعض الأهداف. في البداية التخلص من بعض الثقافات التي تعيق الشباب في سوق العمل، وصقل الشباب بالمهارات العملية لسوق العمل، وخلق قطاعات وفرص عمل جديدة مثل العمل الجزئي والعمل المجتمعي الإنساني. وكل هذه النقاط تتلخص في انضمامهم في العمل التطوعي والعمل الإنساني الذي يكون من خلال الجمعيات. ولا يقتصر النظام فقط على الجمعيات، بل هناك مسؤوليات دولية، مسؤوليات مجتمعية، مسؤوليات حكومية تتلخص في ذلك جميعا، وذلك بسببه نقوم بحفظ الشباب وحفظ قدراتهم من أجل عدم الخوض في بعض المسارات السلبية التي ممكن أن تؤثر على الشباب. شكرا لكم وأعذرا على الإطالة. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed. Really, this is really inspiring what your organization is doing, the activities that really is focusing on the making awareness of this, to the solidarity and the social development. Thank you so much. And our next speaker is Mr. Dario Abdullah Kamal. is a young Pan-Africanist, current member of the first and historic Youth Advisory Council of the African Union Commission. And Mr. Kamal is a part of several important international platforms, such as the African Youth Development Commission, where he's a Secretary General and representative of Mozambique. He was also appointed of a 2-year term as a chairman of the committee in the Commonwealth Youth Council, a platform that includes 1.3 billion young people. Mr. Dario is an activist of modern times and a leader shaped for the future. It has carried out several programs and initiatives with a direct impact on education, climate change, and peace, security, justice, and health. So always in line with the objectives of Sustainable Development and Agenda 2030 and 2063, Africa We Want, that is called. So, Mr. Dario, the floor is yours. We are very interested to listen to you. Thank you. Sure. Yes.
It's work. Okay. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today I stand before you to discuss a topic of huge importance, one that will shape our future and determine the fate of generations to come. That topic is youth feeding the future. In many parts of the world, including Africa, civil society organizations playing a vital role in address food security challenges. These organizations are often driven by a sense of social responsibility and a commitment to improve the lives of communities when it comes to youth and food security in Africa. Civil society initiatives are the forefront of creating positive changes. One is advocacy for policy change. Civil society organizations advocate for policies to support youth involvement in agriculture and food production. They work to influence governments, institutions to create enabling environment for young people to engage in farming and agribusiness. Education and training. Many civil society groups offering trainings, programs, and educational opportunities to empower young Africans with the skills and knowledge needed for sustainable agriculture. This includes teaching modern farming techniques, agribusiness management, and sustainable farming practice. Community engagement. Civil society organizations often work directly with local communities to promote food security. They encourage youth to get involved in community farming initiatives, establish community gardens, and share knowledge about nutrition and food safety. Access to research. These organizations also may assist young farmers in accessing research such as land, seeds, and financing. They help bridge the gap between research constraints and youth aspirations in agriculture. Innovation and technology. Civil society initiatives often encourage young people to embrace technology and innovation in agriculture. This can range from introducing digital tools for crop management to promoting sustainable and efficient farming practices. Gender equity. Many civil society groups also focus on ensuring the young women have equal opportunities in agriculture. They work to break down gender barriers and empower young women to take active roles in food production and agribusiness. African youth are responding to these efforts with remarkable enthusiasm and determination. One, youth-led startups. Across the continent, young entrepreneurs are established food-related startups. These initiatives range from online marketplace connecting farmers to consumers to innovative food processing ventures to reduce post-harvest losses. Youth networks. African youth are forming networks and associations dedicated to agriculture and food security. These networks provide platforms for knowledge sharing, collaboration, and advocacy. Climate-smart agriculture. Recognizing the impact of the climate change on agriculture, African youth are at the forefront of adopting climate-smart practices such as drought-resistant crop varieties and water-saving techniques. Urban farming. In rapidly growing urban areas, young Africans are engaging in urban farming to provide fresh produce to local communities. This addresses both food security and urban sustainability. Communities initiatives. African youth are engaging in community-based food security projects such as the school gardens, which not only improve nutrition, but also promote agriculture education. In summary, the Youth Feeding the Future movement from a civil society perspective underscores the critical role that civil society organizations play in supporting and empowering young people in Africa to address food security challenges. African youth, in turn, are demonstrating remarkable resilience and innovation as they work together a more food security future for our continent. These combined efforts hold the great promises for sustainable agriculture and improved food securities across Africa. Excellencies, dear friends, we, however, want to imagine a world where young farmers harness cutting-edge technology to maximize crop while minimizing environmental impact. A world where young entrepreneurs develop sustainable food startups that address local and global nutrition challenges. A world where young scientists engineering drought-resistant crops and find innovative ways to reduce food waste. This vision, it's not a dream, it's a reality that is unfolding before our very eyes. Across the globe, young people are already leading the change. They are organizing community gardens, advocating for sustainable agriculture policies, and developing mobile applications to connect farmers with markets. They are showing us that youth is not a liability. It is not an incredible asset. However, we must provide them with the support and opportunities they need. We must invest in education and training in agriculture and agribusiness. We must create platforms for them to access financing and mentorship. We must foster an environment where their ideas are heard and valued. Let us also recognize the diversity and inclusivity of this movement. It is not confined by borders, race, or gender. It includes young women who are breaking down barriers in male-dominated fields, in young activists who are advocating for food justice and equity. It is a movement that embraces all who shares the vision of a world where food is a right, not a privilege. Distinguished participants, before I conclude, I wish to share my humble experience with the farmers in my home country, Republic of Mozambique. I don't know if we can share some big camps when we are planning to plant the cereals, 100 hectares. Africa is a place, a motherland for agriculture. This is the result that the young people in Mozambique are putting in the market, fresh food. This is the tomato that we produce it in Mozambique. People with age 18 to 22 are producing per day 4 tons of tomato in a small area in Maputo city, south of Mozambique, and we are feeding the South African market now in Mozambique. Also, this is one of my personal programs that I love, and we are planting mango and teaching kids in schools what to do in facts. We are planting for the future, mango and other fruits, and we put them to know what is that, what they have to do, and to feed also that with small actions, we don't need a lot. We just need the opportunities to do something, especially in Africa where we don't need a lot of fertilizers. We have a good climate. We can do a lot of things with small resources. This is also results of the young people works in the Republic of Mozambique. You can see more than 200 hectares from cereals. This is our response for the cereal crisis originated by Russia and Ukraine. We are replying on the ground. producing and creating alternatives. In conclusion, the term Youth Feeding the Future is not just a slogan, it is a call to action. It is a call to support, empower, and inspire our youth to take up the mantle of the responsibility for our continent sustains. It's a call to invest in their potential and unlock their capacity to transform our food systems. Together, we can create a world where hunger is eradicated, where food is abundant and sustainable, and where our youth truly feed the future. I thank you for your kind attention. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dario. In your speech, you really have stressed the certain aspects that we have to focus on and some solutions that could be very beneficial for our youth, engaging them in agriculture and food security. So our last speaker is Mr. Adam Geshtenmir, Executive Director of the Food Action Alliance. Just a brief information about Mr. Adam. He is Executive Director of the Food Action Alliance, a platform initiated by the World Economic Forum, IFAD, and Rabobank to advance sustainable and nutritious food system in line with UN Sustainable Development Goals. He collaborates with over 40 partner institutions, governments, and companies worldwide to drive impactful initiatives that align with country-led food system agendas. Additionally, Mr. Adam plays a vital role as a member of the COP28 presidency team, focusing on accelerating national leadership and action for food systems and climate within the COP28 UAE Presidential Action Agenda. And with previous experience as a Chief of Staff in the 2021 UN Food System Summit Secretariat and a background in the global development, including work with AGRA and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Adam brings extensive expertise to these critical global challenges. Okay, Mr. Adam, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Excellencies, colleagues, it's a pleasure to come, and to come at the end of the day, actually, again, because I wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to build on many of the things that have been said, and particularly in this panel around youth and feeding the future through youth. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here today from IOFS. They are actually a recent member who has joined the Food Action Alliance with us just this past year. And as was introduced, the Food Action Alliance brings together 40 institutions and growing, all who share a commitment to drive sustainable food systems as part of the response to get at food security, but also environmental sustainability, also livelihoods, and all of the outcomes that we want to see across food system transformation. Let me see, how do I advance slides? Is it green? Very good. What am I pointing at? No, green is... The green. Sorry. The other green. So thank you and apologies. So really, again, from our side, we just recognize I'm here also representing the COP28 Food Systems Unit, joined also by another colleague, Conrad, who will speak tomorrow, who's also working with us on the COP28 Food Systems Agenda. And as we've heard really from the course of this context, today's session, ultimately youth are about the ends as much as they are about a means for change. That ultimately for youth, they have to think about achieving food security, livelihoods, jobs, a livable world, all of these things in the future, as much as we're working on how to enable them with constraints on land, access to finance, skills, and so on. And so this slide really shows the reality of food system challenges across the world. And ultimately, the point is, again, as we frame up youth and feeding the future and focus on food security, a central premise of the UN Food Systems Summit, but also now of the COP28 Food Systems and Agriculture Agenda, is that we can't have sustainable food security unless we ultimately take on a sustainable food system transformation. Right? We recognize the inherent interconnection of food systems and agriculture with climate change, with environmental and biodiversity change, with our overall consumption patterns, and as we've heard today, food loss and waste, and have to recognize the nexus and connections of all of these issues. And ultimately, if we're unable to take on the connection of food systems and climate, we'll begin to see even greater impacts on our productivity going forward. Ultimately, our food losses, as well, as you can see at the bottom of this slide, projected 20% decreases in productivity, decreases of crop yield, and ultimately loss in value if we don't take action from where things are today. So as part of then what we're looking at, a new study that came out just here within the last year, also recognition that as we go today, a simple fact that if we don't change the trajectory we're on, we're unable to achieve the goals that have been set across countries in the Paris Agreement unless we take action on food systems and agriculture, right? So recognition that this has to be front and center in our agenda. The good news is, and now I'll pivot to the way forward, is that we are seeing a movement build all around the world around food systems and climate. This came through the UN Food Systems Summit, but this is a big year, many of you will know. It's the stocktake moment for the SDGs. They just held the SDG Summit, stocktake for the UN Food Systems Summit work, stocktake also for the climate agenda. And so pulling all of these pieces together, 100 different countries submitted their voluntary reports on what they're doing to continue work on food systems here in July of this year. And this slide just shows, some of the simple data emerging from that many countries, 67%, are starting to take what they developed in the last 2 years, build this holistically into their national strategies and sector strategies. And the benefit, again, from a youth perspective, is that these national pathways are comprehensive in many instances. They're looking at what youth prioritized in many countries for access to land or access to finance, and we hope those elements get built into sector strategies going forward. 60% building national action plans and implementation plans, 39% actually building into formal national policies. And many countries are starting to look at what are the cross-government coordination mechanisms or what are the inclusive coordination mechanisms. In my part of the world, I'm based in Rwanda. We see countries like Ethiopia, Tanzania, Rwanda, all building new coordination mechanisms to take on this agenda and learning from each other as they do that. So what this has meant this year now in the way to build forward is that over the last 12 months, the UAE government, as they developed COP28, presidential action agenda, did a range of consultations, including some with youth, including others in a multi-stakeholder fashion, and it gave rise to what they consider now their food systems and agriculture agenda that they've been coordinating around, that they've just launched in July of this year. As part of that, they very intentionally want to make sure that we are building on lots of work underway. The progress of COP26 in the UK, COP27 in Egypt, also the UN Food Systems Summit, and that's why they've hired individuals like myself who were involved in the Food Systems Summit to bring a lot of those relationships and content forward. They want to build on existing institutions, so rather than new initiatives, how do we amplify what already currently exists? And so efforts that have been talked about today, initiative of VAX coming through, as we heard from the US representative, or as you'll hear about tomorrow, a commission on adoption of innovations. There are many different things that are underway, and COP28 is offering a platform to elevate those and look at the linkages across them. And then lastly, as we do it, it's also saying, how do we look at this as a multi-year agenda? It's not about what we deliver by December alone, but ultimately December should be an inception moment for really a 2-year agenda to drive all of this going forward, and very intentionally building a roadmap as we do that, including together with the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, who's actually writing an overall roadmap for the next few years, looking at how to achieve food security in the context of climate change. So the four simple elements of this food systems and agriculture agenda for COP28 are around pillar 1, you can see on the left, national leadership in action. So what countries are doing, and at the center of this, the UAE is putting forward an Emirates Leaders Declaration on food systems, agriculture, and climate action, hoping that all heads of state and government in the world will sign with His Highness on December 1st and 2nd at the World Climate Action Summit. So we've released a draft of that. It's out there, it exists. We're receiving lots of comments and feedback from countries now, seeking that signature really 2 months from today precisely. The second pillar is around non-state leadership and action. And this is a chance again for youth as one of those constituencies to come in and actually drive and put their priorities on the table, along with private sector, along with farmers and producers as well. And we have leadership of the high-level champions taking this on across 10 domains, including many of the ones we've heard about today: food loss and waste reduction, looking at connecting cities and urban food systems to the agenda, and so on. The final pillars then are cross-cutting, and you have one around scaling up innovation adoption and one around increasing access to finance. And so ultimately all of these are elements that need youth leadership and also need to embed youth priorities, just as we did with the UN Food Systems Summit, where we appointed youth-led co-chairs to take on a lot of this work going forward. These should be spaces where we can bring in the work of Oasis boxes, the work around food loss and waste reduction, the work of school gardens, school meals, as we've heard from our other speakers today. So my final slide then is really then building on this agenda, where do we go from here? The opportunity for action is really that we look to IOFS and the member states of OIC to really be at the leading edge of these efforts going forward. You know, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for actors to engage, take action, and lead in your own context, right? This is very much a whole of government, whole of society effort to move this agenda forward. Second, and very practically, we'd encourage you to look at how to convene youth-led dialogues around food systems and climate, or also multi-stakeholder dialogues that then youth can be part of in this going forward. It's something that I'd love to follow up with IOFS, but also with the Commonwealth Youth Council. We did many of these over the last few years. It's really what fuels the movement going forward, and we make sure that we take all of these ideas and build them into practical initiatives and country policy debates. The next one is then looking at how we strengthen inclusive coordination mechanisms at country level or even subnational level. And these are really emerging quite a bit, as I mentioned, in different parts of the world. And so how can we see these take place in OIC countries? And as we do that, the last piece I would say is really to learn from each other within the region, but across regions. That's partly why I've come to this year's session in this forum, but also have just come off the back of the Africa Food Systems Forum, the Grow Asia Investment Forum, efforts in UN Climate Week, and really we need to make sure that we're learning across these platforms different experiences as we go forward. So thank you for your attention and the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adam. It is true that we have to empower our youth with the knowledge about agriculture, food system, and climate change, and we have to involve them in all these issues and the engagement of youth in agriculture and all the challenges of, that are in the main agenda, top agenda, such as food insecurity or climate change, is really important for them to understand and also make their own decision on that. So thank you so much to our speakers. We really received a lot of information from all of you, and I think based on your background, I think it would be good to open up more this issue of youth engagement in agriculture and food security. I prepared several questions for you. So just very shortly, and just would like to have your opinion and comments, and then based on that we will elaborate and make recommendations. So I think actually this session and focus on youth, it is just a start. As IOFS, we will be moving this idea and will bring up more great initiatives involving our partners. So I will start from my questions. Okay, the first question to our speakers, what are the common challenges faced by rural youth across various regions, and how can we adopt strategies to address these challenges while respecting local context and cultures? So, Mr. Dario or Mr. Mohammed, if you could just... Yeah, Mr. Mohammed, please.
السلام عليكم. بالنسبة للاستراتيجيات التي يمكن استخدامها ومن باب إشراك الشباب في حماية الأمن الغذائي، قامت عنا لدينا الجمعية بتدريب الشباب وإكسابهم مهارات ضمن المشاريع اللي لدينا موجودة في الجمعية، والتي تعنى بتقليل نسبة هدر الطعام. وكنا معنيين بالذات بتدريب الشباب ومشاركتهم في تحقيق الأمن الغذائي، وذلك من خلال الدعم الجزئي لهم وبصرف مكافآت شهرية رمزية لهم تعينهم على الاستمرار في العمل وفي البحث الجاد عن أفضل سلام. وتم تلخيص دور الجمعية لدينا إحنا في موضوع الاستراتيجيات في تعزيز دور الشباب في إشراك أكثر من 900 شاب متطوع خلال العام الماضي في مشروعنا، مشروع حفظ النعمة. هذا في مشروع واحد فقط. وتم صرف مكافآت لأكثر من 500 شخص شاب، مكافآت رمزية لمساعدتهم في موضوع العائلات. وحيث أنه قام مشروع حفظ النعمة لدينا بتوعية الشباب على أهمية القيام بمشاريع تحقيق الأمن الغذائي وتقليل من نسبة هدر الطعام. الاستراتيجيات التي يمكن استخدامها لتشجيع الشباب فيما يلي بعض النقاط المهمة التي تعنى بكيفية إعداد وتهيئة الشباب لفرص العمل. التخلص من بعض الثقافات التي تعيق دخول الشباب سوق العمل، وصقل الشباب بالمهارات العملية لسوق العمل، وخلق قطاعات وفرص عمل جديدة في العمل الجزئي والعمل الدائم من هدفها صنع شباب قادر على توجيه بعض النصائح في المستقبل القادم. شكرا جزيلا. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed. Is anybody who wants to comment? No? Okay. So, okay, the second question is for how can we raise awareness among rural youth about the importance of agriculture and its role in food security? Please, okay.
Assalamu alaikum. We can sit here and discuss it for 1, 2, 3, 10 days even. We have a lot of strategies to do that. One of them is to do what you are doing exactly right now. Let's not speak about the youth, but let's bring youth to the table, especially those who work with agriculture. Raising awareness among the rural youth about the importance of the agriculture and the role in food security can be achieved with different strategies. I can enumerate some of them just to elucidate people. Educational programs is one of them. Develop educational initiatives and workshops specifically tailored for rural youth. It's one of them. School outreach, collaborate with the local schools to integrate agriculture into the curriculum, for example. Youth engagement, it's another strategy that can work. Organize youth clubs or associations focused on agriculture, encourage participation in agricultural activities like community gardens or farm visits. Mentorship programs also, pair rural youth with experienced farmers as mentors, can work, use the use of technology. We are in the world that we cannot separate the technology with agriculture. highlight the role of the technology in the modern agriculture. It's very important to showcase success stories, also can inspire the youth, share stories of successful young farmers who have thrived in agriculture. Because, for example, in Africa, we have the mentality that if you work with agriculture, you will never be rich. Let's change that mentality. For example, everyone wants to be like Zuckerberg, like Bill Gates, and no one wants to work with agriculture, but the land is the most important thing that we have as a resource in Africa, for example. Field trips also, organize field trips to the agriculture researchers, centers, successful farms, and agribusiness. Awareness campaigns, run awareness campaigns, the social media, local radio and local radio communities, community events also can work. Also scholarships and grants. Actually, everyone is running for oil and gas, but no scholarships, for example, for people who want to study agriculture, agribusiness, such kind of agriculture-related education or starting farming ventures. Collaboration also, it's very important for the young people. Partner with agriculture and organizations, NGOs, government, agencies, to pool research and expertise in promoting agriculture among the rural youth. Local market also, it's another point that I can discuss here. Encourage youth to get involved in local food markets or value-added products, demonstrating how agriculture can be economically viable. Environmental sustainability also emphasize the role of the agriculture in environmental conservation and sustainable practices. Also can work. Interactive media, create informative and engaging multimedia content, such as videos, podcasts that highlight agriculture issues and solutions. Peer-to-peer learning, encourage peer-to-peer knowledge sharing among rural youth. They can educate each about the benefits and challenge of agriculture. Feedback of the channels, establish feedback mechanisms to understand the concerns and interests of rural youth regarding agriculture, adapt our program accordingly. By implementing a combination of these strategies, we can effectively raise awareness among rural youth about the importance of agriculture, and it is a crucial role in food security. I can sit here and enumerate more and more and more and more and more.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your valuable insights regarding this question. We will take a note whatever our esteemed speakers stressed during the session. So the next question is, can you give me examples of the successful programs or initiatives that have effectively prepared youth for decent work opportunities that can be replicated, to our OSCE member states? Okay, Mr. Adam.
Thank you. It's a good question. I think we've heard about a few of these today already, and really I look at them as ranging from formal to informal, right? So if we think about the formal side of this, there are very specific programs emerging through things like in Rwanda, again where I'm based, the Rwanda Institution for Conservation Agriculture, bringing students in a very tailored program and degree. They actually do work while they're learning and learn all the different elements of different fields of conservation agriculture through to processing and sales and marketing. So get a very broad experience, and that certainly prepares individuals for decent work, right? And it could be across a range of different fields. On the flip side of that, you also have the more of the informal side, where we have efforts like frontline digital extension, and so engaging increasingly youth agripreneurs. There's a company that's called Kuza that started in Kenya. It's expanding through Tanzania and Rwanda right now. Goes out and identifies youth who are essentially frontline extension agents who are able to use the basic IT package, help expose farmers to the different inputs and technologies and practices that they would need, and scaling quite rapidly, able to generate, again, decent employment in a quite exciting way, more of a digital extension worker, again, rather than the frontline producer, or you could be both. And then I think in between that, you have a range of different things around work readiness skills as called for by, it was the last session with Reforum, but also something, a continental effort in the African context is called Generation Africa, or Go Get Us, which is a kind of a broader campaign that pulls together youth agripreneurs, entrepreneurs who all want to learn from each other. No real barriers to entry. So an opportunity, again, for those who want to learn skills from others or get connected with young African startups to take place in this space. So again, mix of formality to informality and small to scalable approaches that could be shared across regions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Adam. I think we are short of time, and I sincerely thank our esteemed speakers as well as our audience for this great session. I think we will get a lot of information and outcomes out of this shared experience and knowledge. And we will be great if this very important issue of youth will be brought up by organizations, and together with IOFS we can make a lot of initiatives and movements. Thank you. Oh, yes, please.
I wish this was a little bit interactive.
Sure.
I'm just going to reach here and make a comment.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Car? Okay. I am from Silicon Valley. Okay, so we're used to startups and what it takes to get projects going and to implement things. Today I heard a lot of speeches. People talked about a lot of problems, very few solutions. Women's session was good, talking about olive oil. The use, this has been, I think, the most productive session so far. I would agree to that, okay? One of the things that I would recommend, I mean, I'm a businessman and also been a university professor, so bear with me. One of the things that I would recommend, in order to motivate our youth and also our women, please start building one greenhouse at every school. You start a greenhouse, the students, they start to get educated. I would start maybe even at high school, but even maybe a little bit below that, even middle school. Start a greenhouse. This is where the students, they will get motivated. Then they will go home and tell their mom, Mom, I want to build a greenhouse in my backyard. That's how you get the message of climate change at the grassroots level. I just wanted to make this comment. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have to involve the school-based agricultural programs, right? So, I mean, this is like the basic thing that we can start with. Yeah, and
so,
thank you so much.
I think I also want to extend to first the audience for their patience, and of course for our speakers and for these great young leaders who shared their stories, and I can see their dedication, enthusiasm, who will bring the change to the communities. So let's give them a round of applause, and particularly for Ms. Makbal for skillfully moderating, and our speakers. Now, as we draw the curtains on this remarkable event, I am filled with gratitude and optimism. Over the 3 sessions, we have engaged insightful sessions that have undoubtedly left an indelible mark on our collective understanding of the vital issues at hand. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to each and every one of you who participated wholeheartedly in these discussions. To wrap up, our journey began with the aim to enhance the role of civil society organization in promoting sustainable agricultural practices and food security within and beyond OIC member states. Through passionate debates and thoughtful deliberations, we have uncovered innovative strategies and solutions to hold the potential to transform the agricultural landscape in our member states. So, our sub-forum centered on fostering collaboration and knowledge exchange between civil society organizations, IOFS, and member states. This mutual learning and capacity building exercise will undoubtedly lead to more informed and strategic actions in the future. But our aspirations don't end here. We also hope for the realization of the goals outlined in our agenda, for example, to enhance the engagement of civil society organizations in policy dialogue, bridging hierarchical, thematic, sectoral, and geographical differences, also to increase inclusiveness and the relevance of global, regional, and national policies and strategies through streamlining CSOs. As we express our gratitude for your active participation, insightful contributions, and dedication to these noble causes, let us to remember that it's not the end, but the beginnings of a journey towards a brighter and more food-secure future. Let us carry forward the spirit of collaboration, innovation, and determination that has characterized these sessions. In closing, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizers, moderators, speakers, and all the behind the scenes, especially the technical department, who worked tirelessly to make this event a resounding success. Your dedication and commitment have not gone unnoticed. Let us leave here today and with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the insights and the healthy debates we have that will serve as a catalyst for a positive change in our communities, our countries, and all our world. Thank you, and let us continue to work in hand for a brighter, more secure, and sustainable future for all. Thank you very much. Before handing over to my senior, I want to thank for your patience. So I would like to invite Mr. Manafi Mutualo to give some information for the further sessions. Thank you very much.
It was a long day for the IOFS team. Most of us were awake since 5, 6 in the morning. But I arrive now with a sense of accomplishment and saying that the IOFS team rock. Very proud of all of them. We did a wonderful job. We have to compliment ourselves. We have to give applause to ourselves because wallahi, very happy. Wonderful job. Alhamdulillah. So inshallah, tomorrow I will have Agritech Sub-Forum. We'll start here in the same room at 8:30, inshallah. A set of different theme sessions will be held here, and we invite you all, inshallah, to again be with us. And again, we will have today a dinner for those who are staying in this hotel, and for those who are not, we will see each other tomorrow. Thank you very much, and we have also to thank all the speakers, all the participants, the technical staff, everybody that make this day a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.